go. Head on with Bob Kincaid. 3 hours of conversation, cussin', and a discussin' with America's only born and bred Southern liberal talk host. Head on with Bob Kincaid is brought to you each night by Coal River Mountain Watch. Coal River Mountain Watch invites you to become part of the solution, part of a sustainable future, part of the uprising against mountaintop removal. Coal River Mountain Watch, crmw.net. And now, from high in the hills of beautiful West Bicod, Virginia, here's Bob Kincaid on the Head On Radio Network.
Well, howdy. And here we go. We are off and running for the second Friday on the front porch of February 2019. It is the 8th day of February 2019. This is The Horn. Headon.live is where we live, and that's where you go. And if you are so inclined, click on the chat room tab, and it'll invite you to pick out a screen name and a password. And you can jump right into the merry, wacky, zany, real-time multimedia extravaganza that takes place during the 3 hours in which this program is live, Monday through Friday, from 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Oh, my God, why have I fallen into this cadence? Hi, I'm Bob Kincaid. Okay, if you do jump into the chat room, you will be immediately greeted by the likes of Anatole and Darn Tootin' and Faith Ann and Squeaky and BT Blom and more to come, I'm sure, as the evening progresses. You will be capably moderated by longtime inveterate, indefatigable veteran chat room moderator Sparky, who, although a spacing guild master, has chosen not to fold space this evening there and become man cave. You will also be moderated by pinch hit midweek utility chat room moderator and all-around great guy Steve from Georgistan. Heck, I'm in there too. It's Friday on the front porch, and remember, we're doing things for Friday on the front porch a little bit differently. There is a new link every Friday. It goes up over at headon.live and probably over on the Horn Facebook page. I haven't put it out on Twitter. I need to start doing that. But if you want to join in the Friday on the front porch conversation, use the link over at headon.live, and it'll carry you straight into the Skype group, and you will you'll be magically deposited just outside the old hollow tree that we sublet from the Keebler Elves, wherein we keep the extraordinary ordinary round table around which we gather every Friday for this most extraordinary of radio conversations, where everybody is an expert of some sort or another. Sorry about that, Alexander. Alexander says, man, I have the hardest time trying to get into the chat room. It's a major pain in the ass for me. I don't know, not knowing what your OS is or whether you're doing it mobily or on a PC or a Mac or whatever. I don't have any problem. The thing is, though, you want to use the you don't want to use the Facebook interface or anything like that. You want to use the one that's just dedicated to the chat room, but hopefully you'll get it sorted. And happy Friday to you as well, Alexander. What have we got this? Well, let's note a couple of passings. Not to be grim or anything. No, these are both lives. These are both lives that need to be celebrated. Yesterday, and I had meant to get to it, but I did not. Especially within the context of Black History Month, the passing of Frank Robinson at, I believe, 83 years of age. Damn, what a ball player. And he was also an outspoken advocate for civil rights. He broke. Let's see, he was the first African American man to be made a manager in the major leagues. He is one of a very small number of hitters who won the Triple Crown. And among other things, he even joked He was the first African-American manager to be fired by 4 different teams. He went on to become the disciplinarian for Major League Baseball and proved himself to be not somebody you particularly wanted to mess with. So he passed yesterday at 83 years of age, and today the Dean of the House of Representatives passed away. Actually, late last night, I guess. John Dingell. If your air is fit to breathe, you have John Dingell to thank for it. One of his signature achievements while he was in the House of Representatives was, in fact, the Clean Air Act. He had many more, but that was what particularly struck me. So, requiescat in pace, Frank Robinson and John Dingell. What else? Oh, we have thank yous to send out. Yes, indeed. We have subscribers to thank, our 8th day of the month subscribers. And that would be thanks to Marcia. Thank you very kindly, Marcia, for your continued support and partial sponsorship of the Horn. Thank you as well to Brendan. Thank you, Brendan, for being part of the happy little group that helps keep things going. Thank you to our buddy Ron in the not in the far frozen wastes of Canada. Ron recently celebrated a birthday and did so, I believe, if the pictures are telling the truth, in Costa Rica. Thank you to Tom. Thank you, Tom, very kindly. Thank you to Nancy. Thank you, Nancy, for being part of the not quite happy 100. I mean, happy enough, just not quite 100. And thank you to Dwayne. Thank you, Dwayne, very, very kindly indeed. Where does that leave us as we head into the end of this week, this first full week of February? It's been a tough week. Things got considerably better last night, but we have $600 to go this evening. $600 to finish the week. That sounds pretty grim, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. But it's not as grim as it could be, because we have a chance to knock out 400 of it. All right? Thanks to Chris in Germany. Chris in Germany's Clap with Nancy $200 challenge. The Clap with Nancy $200 challenge is on the table as of now, and if we can raise $200 to go with it, well, that'll take 400 out of the 600 out, but we got to raise the 200 in order to get the matching funds. Okay? So your 5 becomes 10, 10 becomes 20, 20, 40. Heck, if you were to just kick in 200, that would, but that ain't going to happen. Then the challenge, but it's up to $200 will be doubled, courtesy of Chris in Germany and the Clap with Nancy challenge. Thank you, Chris, so very, very much for helping take a big bite out of the deficit that we have found ourselves in this week. Okay. Now, and by the way, again, use the Skype link that's over at headon.live to get into the Skype chat. Folks are already gathering in the old holler tree that we sublet from the Keebler Elves. And we'll get that conversation started in about 50 minutes or so. What do we what all do we have today? Tell them, Johnny. No. I scoured the interweb tubes. I'm proud to say that unless you saw something I didn't, it's a banner day for white America, because we didn't have anybody else in the state of Virginia or elsewhere outed as having worn blackface. I was beginning to wonder if we were ever going to have another day like that again. Jesus, people. But on the other hand, I had late-breaking news from our pal Joy in Ann Arbor. Joy said, well, there's a new Fairfax accuser coming out with straight-up rape charges. I'm prepared to accept Fairfax's resignation as soon as Kavanaugh gives up his SCOTUS seat. Hashtag clean him out. Hashtag start at the top in the Oval Office. Hashtag work your way down. And I am in agreement with Joy in that regard, because for some reason I'm getting kind of tired of, did I do the hi, I'm Bob Kincaid part? Well, I am. I'm getting kind of tired of the almost miraculous qualities, the miraculous benefits that are imparted by IOKIYAR. Has anybody been protesting outside the office of the Senate Majority Leader of Virginia? Hell, for that matter, has anybody been setting up 24/7 nonstop protests at the office of the United States Senate Majority Leader? You know, Mitch, my old Kentucky homie McConnell. Chinless Mitch, who proudly poses with the Sons of Confederate Veterans in front of the Confederate battle flag. And apparently it doesn't matter. Anybody? Bueller? But, on the other hand, the purpose, when events like this take place, if there is any benefit to be had from them, it comes from learning. These are all teachable moments. With any luck at all, there will be a whole lot of otherwise clueless white people who will never be tempted to go to a Halloween party as Stephen from Django Unchained, or Michael Jackson, or that. Look, I mean, let's say you're a Star Wars fan and you're white. That still doesn't give you the okay to go to a Halloween party or any other kind of party as Lando Calrissian. We need to get this sorted out. But one of the things that makes doing this program such a joy is the way that the members of our community dig deep into an issue and take issues like this, look at it within the context of their own lives, and ask questions of their own existence. This is how, you see, we become better human beings. Is it Plato? It's somewhere in Plato's writings, the declaration that the unexamined life is not worth living. The unexamined life isn't really living, is it? It is the examination, and there's no bright line between the two, but I can see one that runs from the unexamined life is not worth living up to René Descartes declaring cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. And that cogito is the I think, therefore. Interestingly, the Latin word for I believe, credo, it's not credo ergo sum, it's cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am, not I believe, therefore I am. We are definitely not Tinkerbell. This ain't about believing. But it is in those what's the phrase from the 12-step program? One of the steps, made a searching inquiry. It's those searching inquiries that make the time here worthwhile. And so it was, you remember our buddy Paul from Parts Unknown. Paul from Parts Unknown sent me a note that I didn't get to last night, but I wanted to make sure I did get to, and this seems to work out well. Subject line, coming clean. And Paul from Parts Unknown, he of the Paulmans that bring so much joy every holiday season, Paul wrote, Dear Bob, with yet another politician having confessed to wearing blackface in 1980, and after listening to last Friday on the front porch, I feel it's time for me to be honest with the Horn community. It is important to me that the tone of this email not be mistaken as a joke, being flippant, or coy. I'm just going to be open and honest because I found myself asking, is what I did in my younger years considered offensive? That being said, I, Paul from Parts Unknown, am a huge nerd. When I was a teenager, I spent a lot of time playing video games and Dungeons and Dragons. When I started going to college, I became more social and fell into a crowd of more active nerds that were into martial arts, theater, and drama. Oh, man. I was a drama nerd. I understand. Eventually, I got involved in something called live-action role-playing, LARP, LARP. Think Dungeons and Dragons, but in full costume, outdoors, and actually hitting each other. It was a lot of fun and important experience in my life. I learned costume making, sword play, theater makeup, and how to make armor. After I learned the skills and saved up enough money from my part-time job in college, I started playing and created a character. I'd built safety weapons, designed a costume, and built a suit of leather armor. The character I created was a dark elf thief. Yes, you're right, Anatole. It was Socrates that made the statement about the unexamined life. But it's Plato who wrote it all down. Everything Socrates said is in Plato. So yeah, I get it. But anyway, no, and see, I understand what Paul from Parts Unknown is talking about here. Because these are the kinds of good, evil, neutral, bad, ambivalent, indifferent, elves, dwarves, humans. There's a whole panoply of characters from which to choose, and so Paul from Parts Unknown was a dark elf thief. And by way of explanation, for those of you not familiar with dark elves, they look like elves from your typical Lord of the Rings movies, but they have white hair and pitch black skin. And there are photos attached for reference. Or a photo attached for reference. So when I got to go, Paul continues, to these weekend-long events 2 or 3 times a year, I'd put on pointy Vulcan-like Spock ears, painted black. I wouldn't use shoe polish. It was high-grade black theatrical makeup to paint my face and neck pitch black. Not just the bad jobs I've seen in other blackface pictures. I mean, I would paint my eyelids, use eyeliner, black lipstick so that not a speck of white was showing. I colored my hair and eyebrows white and then put on the costume and armor. The makeup job would take between 60 to 90 minutes. I wanted to be a dark elf in this game because I was already naturally good at moving stealthfully and hiding. I thought wearing black clothing with black skin would make me practically invisible at night. Again, these events lasted all weekend, and you would go well into the middle of the night before going to bed. My plan worked. I was a formidable thief. I developed a reputation of being able to sneak up on people and to disappear into thin air. It was highly intimidating for people not to notice a 5'11" 230-pound man in 15 pounds of armor just appear by their side. At no time did I ever think that this might be offensive to other people. I didn't pretend to be culturally African American or make jokes at their expense. I never really gave it a second thought when I was younger. I was a dark elf. I wasn't even human. Now, in my more mature, middle-aged years, looking at it again, I find myself not really knowing. I can see how it might be insensitive in a certain light. So here's my question. Is this offensive or just way too nerdy? I'm actually asking. Other members of the Horn, feel free to weigh in. Tracy, Silent R. Lamar, Todd, please weigh in. Are any thoughts I have never had about having a career in public life over before they begin? And I have a feeling, this being Friday on the Front Porch, there will be a weighing in on this. I'll tell you where I come at it from. It's a fantasy world, and the dark elves are not dark elves who were kidnapped from their home planet, brought to another planet, and put to work and had their labor stolen for 500 years. I think because the essence of blackface is the willing participation in mockery and dehumanization. And so, since there aren't any real dark elves, I'm not inclined to think this is going to prevent you from someday becoming President Paul from Parts Unknown. If you think there's a possibility that it could, Paul, then, disgusting as it may seem, I suggest that perhaps you register as a Republican right now, because even for dark elves and dark elf thieves, IOKIYAR will always protect you with a plus 912 force field shield of protection, and is almost absolutely undefeatable even with the 67-sided die. So that. But I think it's going to be I think it will be an interesting conversation. And let's remember, from an example from the real world at least, there are some real dangerous, studly, real-world types out there who use makeup. I'm thinking about the SEALs, Special Forces, whatever they call them in the Air Force. And if you're doing a night attack, it is nothing. There's nothing at all surprising about everybody being in blackface, because it is the color of night. And there aren't any SEALs who go on missions and are humming "Way Down Upon the Swanee River" while they're doing it. The essence of it is in the mockery. But the other really lovely part of this is the willingness of this community of good faith and good fellowship and good friendship to engage in that kind of in that kind of searching, introspection, and inventory. Because if there's ever going to be a day where this kind of stuff disappears, that is how we that is how we chip away at it, one conscience at a time. So thank you very kindly to Paul from Parts Unknown for that deeply thought-provoking note. Oh, and big thanks going out to Henry. Thank you, Henry, for jumping in early on Chris in Germany's Clap with Nancy challenge. We've only got $150 to go now to finish off the challenge, and that'll leave us with 200 more to finish the week, which is awesome. Just checking the chat in the old hollow tree right now. Something about somebody. I guess we've got a boycott in the making. Sparky says, I'll tell Bob I'm leaving, too, if we do the blackface conversation. Well, no. I don't monitor or censor the conversation of Friday that we have on Friday on the Front Porch because, frankly, the beauty of it is that it goes where it wants to go. So that's where that is. As David in South Carolina says, yeah, yet Donald Trump gets a pass for outright racism. Is this right? No calls for his resignation? No, and that's kind of along the lines with one of the things that I noticed back when Al Franken was being hounded out of the Senate. There were no marches over to the White House saying, "Now you've got to resign right now, Mister." So I don't know. David in South Carolina continuing says, Amway tan. How about tan in a can? Is this not a blackface attempt gone horribly orange? Look, the obsession with tanning itself has an element of trying to abandon one's at least outward appearance of whiteness. It's a running gag on this program how not tanned I am, how pink I am. And, yeah. The other day, the statement about Donald Trump having good genes giving him his orangeness, that's a great howling load of horse shit. There aren't any good genes out there that turn you orange. But there is tan in a can that does it. And there are tanning beds that will do it. And it's still amazing to me that we have people, so-called sun worshipers, who try to turn their skin as dark as they can possibly get it, and then 10, 20 years later wind up looking like old baseball gloves in an effort to not be so white. Never mind the fact that it's also very easy to get skin cancer by doing something like that. And somebody like me who burns under the refrigerator bulb does have to be extra careful. All right, expanding the discussion. Ron in Raleigh says, how about, can you go as Mace Windu? How about Al Jolson in The Jazz Singer? I'd say it's probably a no on Mace Windu. And if you're going as Al Jolson in blackface, you're working really, really hard to try to push the envelope, and I'd say probably no. Yeah, Marty is put off, I suppose. A white Star Wars fan cannot go to a costume Halloween party as Lando? Why not? Does that mean a black fan cannot go to the same party dressed as Luke or Han? Or, sorry, man, from my POV, that's going a bit too far. You can wear the uniform, you can wear the costume, but when you take that extra step over into playing in the makeup, you've made you've taken it into a place that's going, regardless of intent, it's going to be a problem somewhere down the road, and maybe immediately. Scott in San Diego, subject line Dark Elves. This raises a question. Does Santa have dark elves working in the South 40 at the North Pole? Well, Santa's workshop has been moved since the North Pole melted, so that's for starters. And no, these are different kinds of elves. Yeah, these are no elves you'd want to hang out with, and these are not elves who will come to your rescue at Helm's Deep either. Oh, I'm a nerd too. I'm so a nerd. Oh, and by the way, from yesterday's food porn conversation about spicy things, I had a note from Suman who said, I heard you talking about spicy food on the Thursday podcast. I dare, nay, double dare. Nope, triple dog dare you. Oh, God, I've been triple dog dared. I'm screwed. It's just like the thing from A Christmas Story. If you've gone triple dog dare, there's no way to get out with your dignity intact except to take the challenge. Triple dog dare you to try chicken fall curry, Phall. A hint. The curry's base is made up of ground-up fried red chilies. And Suman provides me with a recipe and then says, also, I'm due to receive my little bonus in March. Here is an early fundraising challenge for March. And we will put this out to March, but still. If anyone in the Horn community will try this curry, especially you, Bob, I will donate $50 immediately after I get my direct deposit. If someone matches that 50, I'll contribute another 25. So we'll make that maybe like March the 2nd. But in the meantime, if you'd like this recipe, shoot me a note, bodkincaid@gmail.com, especially if you love spicy things, and I will send you the link that Suman sent to me. And we will all have big fun. I'm gonna let it warm up a little bit so I can take the Coleman outdoor gas stove and do the chili frying outside, so that hopefully I won't gas the entire the entirety of the population of the magnificent Kincaid mansion. I did that once making gumbo. I think I fried a bunch of chilies and black peppers, and I gassed our family. It was painful. It was as if I had pepper sprayed the entire Kincaid cohort. But I'm looking forward to it because this stuff looks awesome. Head sweating awesome. And so thank you, Suman. Challenge accepted. And I wrote to Suman and said I accepted the challenge. And Suman responded, awesome. I can't wait for you to tell us how you feel after the meal. Oh, if it works the way I expect it to, I'm going to feel fantastic, because that big old blast of chili pepper endorphin rush is going to hit, and the sweat's going to pour, and it's I'm invigorated just thinking about it. Separate topic altogether. David in South Carolina says Stone gag order, because a gag order has been imposed on Roger Stone. Stone challenges gag order, but I thought Roger Stone got off on being gagged. No. That's a different kink, David. Roger Stone likes to watch. As to the who can dress up as what, I have a note here. Glenn, is it? Glenn? Exactly. Black folks dress up as white characters all the time, but we don't color our faces with peach crayons. There's a history of racism here that doesn't exist when black folks dress like white folks. That seems blatantly obvious to me. Yeah, as Tracy explained, that's the difference between white folks do it and it's appropriation, because dominant culture, etc. When it goes in the other direction, it's assimilation. And, yeah, I tend to agree. And, yes, Laurel says, the only time I ever met Paul Wellstone in person was when he was surveying storm damage. I was helping clean up my neighbor's equipment shop 20 miles north of here in the aftermath of an F5 tornado, which isn't supposed to be striking places like that anyway, but welcome to climate change. It was cloudy literally all day. I still burned myself to the point of blistering. Hashtag Pink Lives Matter. It was weird. You know, we had a lovely weekend last weekend, and I stepped outside. I was working with the smoker, doing the barbecued pork loin and everything, smoked pork loin. And just standing still, I could actually, and it's such a welcome feeling when you haven't felt it in a long while, I could actually feel the heat of the sun on my face. And just in the course of tinkering around in the yard for a couple of hours, I got pink. I got a little cooked. Because my genetics come from a place where the sun ain't a lot, or did, and that used to be a hell of a lot colder. I mean, what a trip that what a trip that is. Out of Africa, through the Caucasus, all over Europe, all the way up to Scandinavia, which means basically walking up through Russia and then down into those little hangy down things that are Finland and Norway and Sweden. Maybe wandering up to Denmark, and well, melanin does not come in handy in places that don't have a lot of sun. It can actually be so. By about 7,000 years ago, maybe 5,000 years ago, ding, white people, and immediately shortly thereafter, maybe it's an ancient human archetypal memory where we remember that we weren't always this pale. Maybe that's where the yearning to tan comes from. I don't know. Thank you very kindly. My bad on the misremembering of the name. Thank you very kindly, Glasgow, for jumping in. We've got $130 to go on Chris's Clap with Nancy challenge. Thank you. All right. Meanwhile, another country heard from, literally, Brother Deacon Asa says, I disagree with all sides over the reason why Trump is orange. It's neither jeans, nor tan in a can, nor jeans, Jeans. The sumbitch is orange from all the hookers pissing on him over the years. Well, the dinner hour just got fucked in the Central Time Zone. Maybe we're even working on the Mountain Time Zone, too. I'm sure someone out there fixing dinner right now in the Central Time Zone just said, thanks for the sour persimmons, brother, to Brother Deacon Asa. The Air Force equivalent of the SEALs is Special Operations. Okay. And Ron in Raleigh says, I have a question about the problems in Virginia. Will we all sit back well satisfied that the state's power is turned over to Republicans? I'm asking for a friend. Well, I know I won't. Jesus, the fact that the Republicans were willing to go to the lengths of actually drawing a name out of a bowl instead of doing democracy just to maintain their majority in the House of Delegates, it tells you a lot about how they operate. There are thousands of Virginians who desperately need health care who ain't gonna have it. Right? Yeah. But I have a feeling it's entirely possible that Ralph Northam may just brazen this out and make them impeach him. And maybe that's what should happen. Maybe a whole lot of apologizing. And what... and if this marks me out as a bad person, I apologize. That's sort of a non-apology apology, isn't it? But I'm still deeply suspicious, especially in light of what Jeff Bezos said yesterday in his post about being shaken down by the Inquirer. Some of this stuff seems awfully coordinated. There are, in this sort of thing, very few coincidences. And so I think we kind of have to separate out, he said, white-splaining. Not wanting to, not trying to. But I think we have to understand the issues and deal with them on a separate basis. You deal with racism and blackface separately from dealing with white-wing rat fuckery. Because they're not the same thing. And we know that is how Republicans operate. They can't win in a fair fight, so they always try to rig the fight. It goes all the way back to Gary Hart, and maybe even further. Oh, cowbell for Asa, according to Steve from Georgia Stan. That's from all the hookers peeing on it. Yes. Mm-hmm. Well done, and thank you, Steve. We know now, we didn't then, and the media got played like a pawn shop fiddle with the fuckery that was run on Gary Hart. She literally went over, sat on his lap, the photo was taken, and she was up and gone, whereas the photo created this impression that she was just a lollygagging all over Gary Hart over there on the monkey business. And there was no shame in the way that played out. And I don't know if there's ever been a formal apology. God knows Gary Hart would have made a fine president. But instead, look what we got. And Marty, meanwhile, seconds the cowbell nomination for Brother Deacon Asa. Thank you, Marty. So I think we've got, and we're apparently going to have to find other things to talk about during the extraordinary, ordinary conversation. But be that as it may. And yeah, we've got $130 to go on Chris's challenge, and then $200 beyond that. So let's say that we've got $330 to go to finish the week. Oh, and this. Maybe this will prove a scintillating topic for conversation this evening. Matt, Hot Tub Time Machine, or as I saw earlier today with the reference, Hot Tub Crime Machine, Whittaker, went up to Congress today, to the House, to testify, and proceeded to show us just what kind of guy he is. And by way of what kind of guy he is, I don't think anybody's ever said it better than Professor Spicoli.
You dick!
Yeah. I've got the clips here. It starts off with his response to Representative Gerald Nadler. And Jerry Nadler is not one with whom one wishes to work, because he has a great deal of authority there in the House. And the House committee that he heads is deeply interested
Acting Attorney General
in the, I hate that auto-run audio, deeply interested in the machinations of the White House relative to the Mueller investigation. In the House Judiciary Committee. And so under questioning, and you know they have time rules in the House. And they operate the clock sort of like a Oh, I don't know, like the NFL operates a clock. It starts, it stops, time is put back on the clock. I guess there are even penalties for fucking up, and you can have your time removed. I don't know. But I've been watching congressional hearings for a long time, and they can occasionally get contentious. But honest to Pete, I think this may be the damnedest thing I've seen since, what was his name, Brendan Sullivan, informed the Senate that he was not a potted plant. This is a real live, no kidding, congressional hearing of the House Judiciary Committee, and hot tub crime machine Whittaker does this. And before I roll the audio, let me say that I have an immense amount of respect for the ability of Representative Nadler not to come flying across the table and just choke hot tub time machine Whittaker right out. You'll understand why.
In your capacity as acting Attorney General, have you ever been asked to approve any request or action to be taken by the special counsel?
Mr. Chairman, I see that your 5 minutes is up, and so I'm here voluntarily. We have agreed to 5-minute rounds, and
the committee.
I think that's a fine place to end the 5-minute rule.
The committee will end. Will come to order. I will point out that we didn't enforce the 5-minute rule on attorney.
Yeah. See, could you do that? Could you just say, well, we're going to keep on doing business and not just, pardon me, and scoot your chair out and walk over and grab him by his necktie, gently untie it, and take the two parts of the necktie that are rolled over each other and just grab both ends and pull as tightly as you can until he goes kwump, and his big old bald, stupid, ugly head bounces off the solid wood table. Could you? I couldn't. I just really couldn't. But he was trying. He was trying to play some sort of. He was trying to engage in some sort of dick measuring contest, I guess, with the most powerful man on the House Judiciary Committee, who has the power to recommend, contempt of Congress charges. And after the behavior of hot tub crime machine Whittaker today, if he is not held in contempt of Congress, I will be, disappointed. Yeah, you're right. Monique says, Whittaker has that Kavanaugh entitled snark smirk. Gross. But this was not the only time he played the game. This was because he kept that snark up about time limitations.
Protect your skin from winter.
Even with goddamn auto-run ads. Even with somebody, I mean, he might have thought he could get away with it with Nadler. But the one person that he really should not have fucked with was probably Representative Sheila Jackson Lee. I mean, this was the damnedest thing. Big old, bald, white man gonna talk down to a strong, powerful African-American woman? That boy's about as sharp as a bowling ball. Whittaker is. That's when this happened.
Mr. Chairman, may I have my time restored? I think it was at 4 minutes.
Yes, 2 minutes.
Thank you. Again, Mr. Attorney General, the question is, did you have a confirmation hearing, and has it been more than 10 years since you testified before Congress?
Congresswoman,
Can the clock be restored?
It was. I'm sorry, what was your... I don't know if your time's been restored or not.
Mr. Attorney General, we're not joking here, and your humor is not acceptable. Now, you are here because we have a constitutional duty to ask questions, and the Congress has the right to establish government rules. The rules are that you are here. So I need to ask the question, and I need to have my time restored so that you can behave appropriately. I will behave appropriately as a member of the Judiciary Committee. I'm asked a question. Did you have a confirmation hearing, and have you not yet appeared for an oversight hearing?
So please answer.
Yeah. It was not a pretty day. And hot tub crime machine Whittaker, as Darlene in Connecticut puts it, Nadler versus Whittaker. Can you believe that? I'm paraphrasing here, but your 5 minutes are up. Wow, can you believe that being said to a Republican on a committee? Well, no, because Darlene, that's the fundamental difference between Republicans and Democrats. Republicans don't actually believe in governance. They are conservative anarchists of a sort. The only purpose they see in government is as a pipeline to funnel wealth to their cronies. You know, through things like defense appropriations and Pentagon mismanagement and block grants to the states. Democrats actually do believe in the idea of constitutional governance. But his smart assery did not earn him it didn't do him any favors. And David from South Carolina points out, yeah, Hot Tub Hustler got the beer sweats too, just like Brett. Finally, they did worm at least an answer out of him.
Yes or no?
At a tension-soaked congressional hearing Friday, acting U.S. Attorney General Matthew Whittaker told lawmakers he had not talked to President Donald Trump about special counsel Robert Mueller's Russia probe, which Whittaker has a history of attacking.
I'm sorry. It's a yes or no question. Have you communicated anything you learned in that briefing about the investigation to President Trump? Yes or no?
To answer your question, I have not talked to the President of the United States about the special counsel's investigation.
So the answer is no. Thank you.
And of course, oaths to tell the truth mean absolutely nothing to this ongoing criminal enterprise, otherwise known as the Julius Geezer regime. Yeah. Meanwhile, going back to the issue of dealing with politics, the bifurcation I discussed, Laurel says, in the fight against fascism, we often need to rely on the support of some less than savory characters. Let's not forget who dealt the Nazis 90% of their overall casualties in World War II. We won't win short-handed. It's factual. Meanwhile, there was another pointed line of questioning of Hot Tub Time Machine Whittaker earlier today. Representative Hakeem Jeffries got a little bit sideways with beer sweats Whittaker. Jeffries asked him. He said, "I'm confused. I really am." And, when somebody sharp tells you that they're confused and they don't understand something, what that actually means is, yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. and you're about to lose your shirt. Anytime a lawyer says something like, well, I'm just an old country lawyer and I don't know much, things are going to get bad. This is not, however, to say that Whittaker didn't have allies on the committee. Oh, no. This one, we'll get back to Representative Jeffries in a minute. But, wow. The ranking Republican is on Judiciary is Representative Doug Collins, who offered this by way of an opening statement.
Committee, the gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Collins, for his opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Acting Attorney General, for being here. But I would like to thank, I'll start off with this way, and I also want to thank the chairman for a show of honesty. We now have the reason for this hearing. It has nothing to do with the oversight of DOJ. It has everything to do, as we found out this morning in a document dump from the Democratic side of this committee and also another committee, that this is nothing more than a character assassination. And we're going to also decide to see if we can just do something and get at the president while we're had the chance. Yesterday, I want to tell you a story. My kids are now grown. They're 26 and down to 20. And I used to always love the Easter season and the time of especially hide and seek and going to find, eggs. And that look on their face when they found that last egg they were looking for. And that look of surprise. And yesterday was that for me again. I was back being a father again. Because yesterday was nothing but pure political theater. It was wonderful. It was a time for hide and seek. The chairman had a hearing. Let's do a subpoena. We're going to stand tough. And let's just do the timeline real quick. We get through with it. And as I had warned this committee, a preemptive subpoena was not a good idea. It chills all other witnesses coming before this committee and would probably have a detrimental effect to the acting attorney general. But, hey, I'm the minority. Who cares? So we do it. And the acting attorney general's office responded. At about 5 o'clock, the chairman sent a letter saying, we know we'll examine it on a case-by-case basis. The acting attorney general said, no, we need assurances that you're not going to issue a subpoena today or yesterday or today. So, okay, we're back and forth. DOJ, as I understand, he said, no, that's not enough assurance. And we were informed around a certain time last night, about 7 o'clock last night, that an agreement had been made, and it was a full cave by the committee chairman. No subpoenas today. So everything that we did earlier in the day was a complete waste of time.
Just like everything he's saying.
Now, what was even worse about this, and let's talk about, Twitter accounts. Last night around 8 o'clock, the chairman's Twitter account said acting attorney general was going to show up today at 9:30. The interesting thing about that is they linked to the 5 o'clock letter, not this letter, which I asked now to be admitted to the record, which, by the way, I was CC'd on, but never, I guess this is it. But we're going to put this into the record now. The letter to the acting attorney general in which the chairman of this committee says there will be no subpoena tomorrow, and any differences we have we'll work on later. And I ask unanimous consent that be entered into the record.
What is it about these privileged Republicans that keeps reminding me of the Philip Seymour Hoffman character from Scent of a Woman? Just these smug, smirking little assholes. Good God. So that's Representative Collins. And it gets, it gets weirder and weirder. He was questioned by Representative Jamie Raskin of Maryland about where his payoffs came from. Ain't that the truth? Monique says, I never want to hear a man call a woman whining or hysterical again. Yeah, not as long as that guy's in the Congress, at least. Jesus. What a maroon. Let's see if we can get that.
Thank you.
Time of the gentleman has expired. Mr. Raskin.
Mr. Whittaker, before you took the call from President Trump, you had a fascinating career. Owned a daycare center, a concrete supply business, trailer sales, GOP activist, U.S. attorney who unsuccessfully prosecuted Iowa's first openly gay state legislator on trumped-up Hobbs Act charges that were dismissed by the jury in about an hour, Senate candidate. There have been some scandals, too. Here's one. Trump's acting attorney general involved in firm that scammed veterans out of life savings. Veteran says, I spent the money on a dream. I lost everything. But the newspapers say you struck gold when you arrived in Washington, which the president calls the swamp. Here's one that tells the story. Conservative nonprofit with obscure roots and undisclosed funders paid Matthew Whittaker $1.2 million. According to the Washington Post, in the 3 years after he arrived in Washington, Whittaker received more than $1.2 million as the leader of a charity that reported having no other employees. That's a pretty good deal. Now, what was the...
Well, that was fun. Crashed right smack dab in the middle of things. We'll continue with Hot Tub Time Machine as we engage in the Friday on the Front Porch conversation. Let's go over to the old Hollow Tree right now and check in with Sparky. Hey, Sparky. Sometimes takes
Hey, Bob.
Hey, how you doing?
Why did you send me your weather?
I didn't send you my weather.
Well, it's cold.
Oh, I thought you meant I emailed you, but well, that's mainly we didn't have any further use for it, so we thought maybe y'all could figure out something to do with it.
Yeah, and you took mine. We were 70s last week.
It was 70 here yesterday. And but it looks like we're going to abandon that effort because we get down to 17 tonight. Tomorrow's high is 36, and we're back in the 40s and 50s through most of next week. So maybe the damn groundhog reconsidered his position.
Hey, Sparky, you're lucky. Sparky, how are you?
Yeah, we almost got flooded.
Really?
Well, it came close. Went down to the creeks down here, and they were about ready to get out of their banks the other day.
I remember when that happened.
And rained and rained and rained and rained and rained. Horrible.
Well, it was pretty rainy here yesterday too, and the problem is when it rains like that in the winter here, that means when the spring rains come, we're going to have a real problem. On the other hand, when we went to the doctor yesterday over in Summersville, Summersville Lake they have released more water from Summersville Dam over the course of this winter than I think I've ever seen before. It's almost down to the original bed of the Gauley River, and it makes you wonder if maybe they're expecting a hell of a lot of rain as spring comes on. I mean, it's almost empty.
Well, the mountains around here got dumped on with snow. That's for damn sure.
And I remember when that happened.
Sierras.
I remember when that happened a few years ago, and a lot of it you said came from the fact that they hadn't bothered to clear out the creeks and the ditches and stuff. But they did that, right?
Well, they did that. Thank goodness. I was looking. There wasn't much trash flowing down them creeks.
So that's probably just
it cleared out. I mean, it hasn't come to that yet. I was worried that there might be some fire runoff from that fire we had near here that went right up that canyon.
Well, it's kind of like what Malloy says. If it's not, what's he say? If it's not lice, it's bed bugs. You know, if it's not fires, it's rain.
Mm-hmm.
And I imagine there's a lot of people in California who wish Mother Nature would quit listening to James Taylor songs.
Yeah. Well, we got some news today. Our homeless population is up from last year.
Well, I mean, isn't that you'd expect that? That's kind of a direct result of the fires, right? I mean, an entire city rendered homeless.
I don't know if any Paradise people are here or where they went.
I remember hearing that report.
It spread to the four winds.
I remember hearing that report saying that it was unreasonable to think that there was just going to be boom housing for an entire city.
Mm-hmm. Well, I got my union paper today. My local, there was 17 people that had their houses burned. They're members of my electricians local. So they did a GoFundMe, and then they had something through the Labor Management Committee. So far they've raised $137,000, and they're asking for volunteers to help, when it's time to go up there and rebuild.
Wow. That's going to be a lot of rebuilding. But there's a lot of insurance things going on now, and then they're just clearing the trash away, and the burnt ash and all that stuff. It'll take a long time. It's gonna be a long time recovering. I mean, and I don't know if you can even call it recovery. It's just it's an attempt to make things not as shitty as they presently are. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of space between recovered and surviving. Yeah, Dennis, Pleasure, California. Yeah, I saw that too.
And they're in Pleasure, California, if they only would have raked the forests like they do in Finland.
Mm-hmm. Jesus, what an idiot.
I'm just hoping damn great, get on my lap. I just hope they've taken the Welcome to Paradise signs down. For now, anyway. Or covered them.
Yeah, that's kind of a slap in the face, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hey, I sent a message to our buddy John Britovo last week, trying to.
He's gonna be here later, hopefully, but he's got his taxi cab deal. He's running for his.
Oh yeah, because they're still without a vehicle.
Yeah. So he has to pick her up. I predict him sometime last hour.
Okay, because it is a new wrinkle with that link into the group and everything.
Well, he's already in here, so all he has to do is answer.
Oh, cool. Thanks. Oh, and I should mention, of course, that the stress line is open as well for people who can't use Skype. I'm just checking right now to make sure the Bluetooth is engaged. Of course it isn't, because it just drops for reasons known but to the Flying Spaghetti Monster. But that number, of course, is 844-843-4676, 844-THE-HORN. And if you can't use Skype, you can certainly get in that way. Well, let's check around the room. You got company coming, Billable Rick?
Yeah. Hey, Bob, how you doing?
It's going to be not freezing, and that's a real bonus.
That's good.
It's been an easy propane week. Let's put it that way.
Oh, well, I heard you earlier in the week did some naked radio, and I'm glad I didn't see that.
Yeah, I'm so glad. That's another bonus of us just being a radio program. No one has to have that imprinted upon their psyches.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing, because I was all out of bleach, Bob.
Mind bleach.
Yeah,
mind bleach.
Brain bleach. Bring the brain bleach. We had 2 nights of naked radio here.
Yes, I heard them both. Yes, quite impressive.
Hey, and by the way, let me ask you a question before because you'll probably know the answer. Okay. I saw a post alluding to something that I found distressing. I know you're a big Norman Goldman fan.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a competitive spirit.
Yeah.
We do what we do. Other people do what other people do. And we need all the progressive liberal broadcasters we can get.
Absolutely.
Is he going off the air?
Yes, February 22nd is his last show, unfortunately. It just so happens that...
well, I mean, why?
He's sunk $2 million of his own money. He and his wife Frances's money into the show, and he basically is all plumb out of extra money, and all he has left is his retirement savings, which he doesn't want to invade to keep doing the show. He's been he's been doing it like 9 years, and I calculated that he was losing at the rate of about $5 a minute in terms of. So it was like about $222,000 a year that he was losing on average over 9 years. So $2 million over 9 years, $222 and some change. So unfortunately, yeah, he has to go off the air. And as it turns out,
that sucks.
I know. Joe from Cleveland is coming into town. You met Joe at the North Georgia Mountains.
Oh yeah, Joe's a great guy.
I believe him and I text. Now I'm not sure.
Yeah. You most likely do if you're both on Messenger.
Yep.
That's how I text with him, is via Messenger. And so what Joe and I are doing is we're taking Norm, his wife, and their crew out to dinner at a place in Burbank called Castaway.
That's awesome, Rick.
And
I don't know Norm, but tell him, man, he's got fans that are gonna miss him. You know.
I know, and
that hurts.
The problem is his business model was fatally flawed because he didn't get on enough terrestrial radio stations to have a broad enough reach in order to attract enough advertisers to basically make it economically viable. Because I think I hear myself.
Somebody turned their video on or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Irwin. I think it's Irwin. Why don't you shut your video off, dude?
Okay.
No worries. Hey, Irwin.
So was Norman on? Was he buying time on terrestrial radio or something?
No, he wasn't buying time on terrestrial radio. What he did is he had his own company, which basically ran the show, and it was a syndicated kind of show. Okay, and he got on several major stations, like WCPT in Chicago. He's on, I think, is it KTNF up in Minneapolis? He just got back on a Bay Area station just earlier this year. But when he first started, he was on more stations, and he ended up, because Mitt Romney lost to Obama in 2012, somebody had to pay for all of that. So they got, Clear Channel, which was highly, I think it was either indebted or owned by Bain Capital, decided they were going to shut down all the progressive talk stations and turn them into sports stations. Or
that's what if you're a white wing hedge fund that owns a shit ton of radio stations, that's what you always do. The minute your progressive radio station becomes successful, you kill it lest the message get out, and then you turn it into music of your life, music for music for people who are dead now, or a sports talk radio station primarily dedicated to curling, because the point you're trying, the only reason they went with a progressive format in the first place was because they assumed it was a lead pipe cinch loser. And then when it proves not to be, shit, we're making money. Fuck.
Well, the thing is, I mean, the thing is, they make it a lead pipe cinch loser because they don't give him a chance. Basically, Norm kept saying this week that he never really had a chance to fail because, Clear Channel, Cumulus, they control the market. They refuse to syndicate a show on any of their stations. And so, I mean, it's because of the antitrust laws, the erosion of them. And he did not apparently have a good claim under antitrust law under the way the current law is set up, the way it's evolved. And, I mean, he went to a good antitrust lawyer to try to figure out if he had a claim because he was really pissed about being excluded from the market. So, I mean, even though you have these – and he's running a shoestring budget.
Sure.
He was hoping to to make up for make enough money through the advertising, on-air advertising that he got to do, and also through podcasting. But he said his most profitable year was like 2015, and even that was a $30,000 loss.
Well, Rick, may I interject something? According
Sure.
to Randy, she just sunk $30K into a fiber optics, totally revamping her whole system.
Oh, did she?
She's profitable. So.
Oh, she is.
Yeah. Well, she's evidently she is. I mean, who could afford to do that unless she got money to burn? You know.
Well, see, the thing is, you have to remember her. I don't know if it's her husband, but boyfriend Howard. He used to work for the same lobby shop that Denny Hastert worked at.
Yep,
okay?
They did carried over interest. Yep.
Yeah, so he probably has a lot of extra money. He's probably helping out.
Yep,
because
good observation.
Randy. Yeah, I mean Randy. Aside from Air America, when she was paid maybe $1 million for a couple of years by that station, by that organization, she's never really made a lot of money, is my understanding. So
and I thought, my gosh, by donations alone, she's just kicking ass, and it pisses me off that Bob is taking off. You know.
Yeah, well, we need to support the progressive stations, as Bob says. I mean. And just to give you just by way of a side, Bob, when I found an interesting legal story that like breaking news that popped up, I would often send it to you, Norman, sometimes Randy, and then sometimes Mike,
I remember seeing the CCs.
Yeah. So I would try to include all of you, to just kind of give you a heads up on something that might be a good show topic, because we're all in this together, and a lot of it is, you guys aren't really direct competitors. I mean, you and Norm are technically, because you're at different, you're at the same time in the same time.
Yeah, off the top of my head, there's three of us. There's me operating over here in this little cobwebbed corner of the interweb tubes. There's Norman, who was trying to work radio stations, and then there's Dean Obadala over on Sirius XM.
Oh. This is your 6 to 9 Eastern time slot?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
The last thing we need to do is form a circling squad and shoot at each other.
Right, and I've never experienced anything along those lines. When I do things like Netroots Nation or Radio Rose, with a couple of notable exceptions, there's always been a great deal of collegiality. Knock 'em dead, kick ass. Thanks for doing, thanks for doing the Lord's work, and nice.
Well, I think the reason, I think the reason for that, Bob, is if you're like a conservative asshat, you're not going to go into liberal or progressive talk radio. You're going to go into conservative talk radio and try to be a Limbaugh, and the idea here is we're kind of all on the same team. I mean, if money was your motive, you wouldn't have gotten into this line of work as a liberal or progressive talk show host. So why should you be nasty? I think the one exception to the collegiality might have been like Ed Schultz. At least that's my understanding.
That was one of those notable exceptions. Yes.
Yeah, and maybe Al Franken too, perhaps. If you ever were when Air America was still around, if you were ever at one of those radio rows back then.
And even Jerry Springer had a show back.
Well, there's one other, but I'm not going to mention it.
No need.
The larger point though, is that, let me put it this way: when's the last time you saw a White Wing broadcaster having to leave the air because there just wasn't enough financial support?
Pick me, Bob. I know.
It hasn't. Well, Glenn Beck, maybe. Glenn Beck.
Well, no, I mean, Well, that was bad management on his part.
Yeah. Alex Jones.
But
I know.
What's the answer?
I can't think of his name, but it was the guy who headed up Family Radio, who kept doing the bogus end of the world.
Well, yeah,
they owned good signaled FM properties all over the country, and I believe they finally sold the last one off here in the last 6 months.
Well, the answer I was going for was almost never. That was the answer that the judges would have accepted. Almost never, because the White Wing, through its think tanks and foundations and wingnut welfare organizations, will always keep this shit on the air, no matter how batshit crazy and evil it is, because they know it benefits them. Explaining that to similarly situated liberal organizations, I don't know. I think we'll come up with a unified field theory in physics before they ever understand that.
Yeah, I think I think you're absolutely right, Bob. And Norm did mention that there were a couple of people he wasn't going to mention who probably had the money to buy stations, like from the bankruptcy of Clear Channel and so forth, but chose not to. Like, I think he was referring to a couple of billionaires with whom he may or may not had some contact. I don't really know. But the thing is, the liberal billionaires, I mean, that sounds like an oxymoron, and I suspect it is, because Howard Schultz ain't no liberal, even though he says he's a Democrat. And I mean, the folks on our side just won't put in the money to get the means of communication distributed, to get good distribution of our message. And no wonder why we're always trying to debunk all the lies told by the conservatives. And again, if you're explaining, you're losing, is the old expression,
Well, precisely.
You want to hear my Clear Channel liberal radio story?
Yeah.
Out here in San Diego?
Absolutely.
50. Well, I can't even remember the frequency. It was like 15 something. No, 1360. Way up at the right end of the dial. 5,000 watt signal. Respectable. I mean, it wasn't a class. I forget what the AM classes are, but it wasn't a low end of the dial 10,000 or 50,000 watt AM station.
Backyard station, yeah.
But it was good. It had, if you look at the map under, I think there's still KLSD.
Probably 1,000 square miles.
Up and down the coast, maybe just south of Los Angeles, even in the daytime.
Nice.
Way out to sea, and there's nobody out there except fish and people on boats. And down further south, into Mexico. But here's the deal. Back before it was KLSD, Air America Radio in San Diego, it was a music of your life type station. Because I tried to get a job there when I moved out here. And I couldn't get in the door. This is the weirdest damn radio market on earth. But then Clear Channel, it was the station was making respectable numbers in terms of its history. I mean, it wasn't burning up the turf with, swing and pop vocals from the 30s and 40s and 50s. Okay. So KLSD was pulling, all things considered, respectable numbers, and would have done better if the sales staff had been motivated to knock on some doors of prospective clients.
Absolutely. Scott, that reminds me a lot of that documentary that you instructed me to watch.
Oh, yeah. What is it? Something FM?
I can't remember, but you instructed me to watch it, and it hit home. It was about how iHeartRadio gobbled up everything and just put a lot of good people out of business,
And the problem is, their mindset was, liberal people, progressive people don't buy consumer goods or cars or homes or anything that can be advertised on radio. It's as if
we also don't buy toilet paper, Scott. Because we don't have assholes. Nothing. Because we don't have assholes.
Wait a minute. Time out.
While I'm sitting here running my mouth, I got a package. What the hell could this be? Oh, I know what it is. Never mind.
Blueberry pancake pipe tobacco, perhaps?
No, Bob. But anyway, long story short, on KLSD, it had a great local morning guy, Stacey Taylor, okay, and then it had Al Franken, and then it had Randy, I believe was the lineup, and then it had Tom Hartman. Not Hartman, the guy down in Georgia, our buddy.
Malloy?
And Cassidy.
Malloy?
Malloy, Jesus, I'll be. You know what? I must be losing it, Bob. I couldn't think.
So is Mike. Don't feel so bad, Scott.
Well, you know, it's funny. Malloy is so good with just little offhanded ad libs. He looked at me at one point during the during Malloy Palooza down there, and he said, "Well, Bob, now that we figured out we're never going to make any money in radio, what'll we do now?"
Keep on doing it.
But anyway, so they gave it about, I'm guessing 3 years thereabouts, maybe a little more, maybe a little less, and went all sports.
And Scott, where was KGO out of? Remember Bernie Ward, and they had a lot.
That's
of
San Francisco.
Yeah, they had a lot of mixtures. They would have progressives and Republicans, and that was a good mix,
Yeah.
But the other thing with and I know a wee little bit about this just because I did some fill-in work for Mike back when they were still doing terrestrial radio, and I hope I'm not telling tales out of school. But Mike and Kathy were both so relieved when they didn't have to deal with it anymore, because it's stressful. Because when you're dealing with terrestrial radio, it means you're dealing with terrestrial radio automation. And you're sending this tone and sending that tone and playing with hard breaks and soft breaks, and the most frustrating part of it, and one of the things that when I hear from members of the Horn Family Community Congregation, one of the things I hear most often is, Bob, you have no idea what a pleasure it is to tune into something and not have every train of thought derailed by the need to hit the hard brake or the soft brake. Because, and for me, it's particularly difficult because I can't say my name in less than 5 minutes. It's just how I am.
Ask Bob what time it is.
I'll tell you how.
That's why he stopped doing time checks.
Hi, everybody.
Ask him what time it is. He tells you the history of watchmaking.
Hartman, Stephanie Miller, they still have hard.
Come on down here to Fred's Car Wash. There's a lot going on down here. We got balloons and hot dogs for the kids.
The music just automatically kicks in, and you get come hell or high water, you got to fade out.
I've got a question for Rick.
Yes, Scott. I heard Herman try to chime in too, so let's let him in after this question, but Scott.
Okay, good. That's what I was going to do. You mentioned Norman is going off the air.
Yes, February 22nd, last day.
All right. Now, is he planning in his, farewell week or whatever to, when someone puts down the headset, hangs up the headset, it's not a bad idea I'm sure he has a substantial audience.
He does.
Is he planning to send them along to another liberal progressive broadcaster? I'm thinking, I don't know, Bob. They're in the habit of listening during this time period.
Yeah.
They're progressive and liberal. All of a sudden there's a hole in their day. It makes perfect sense for him to at least let people know that Bob is here, because I don't think Bob beats his own drum enough.
No, Bob. Yeah, Bob doesn't. And
no, of course not. I've been bitching about that for years.
I can actually personally.
You would despise that. You would despise that if I did that Limbaugh shit with my friends with half my brain tied behind my back. Give me another handful of those oxys.
Yeah. There's got to be a happy medium somewhere.
Well, Edgar Casey was a happy medium.
You're not getting a fucking bill for that, Scott. You're just not.
Bob.
I didn't watch your
Friday.
fucking bill, Bob. I was trying to make a serious point. I think Norman should let people know that even though he's hanging up the headphones, that there are other options for engaging conversation.
Well, I think
of importance.
this is the fly in the ointment, Scott, as to that, because he doesn't want to piss off the radio stations that he's on by basically saying, "Hey, don't listen," to tell listeners, "Hey, listeners, listen. You don't listen to the new show that's coming to the air on this station. Listen to Bob Kincaid instead." So it's sort of a, it's sort of a tricky.
What have they done for him? I mean, it doesn't sound as if I don't think I've ever heard his show except maybe once or twice several years ago.
Well, they've actually done quite a bit for him because there aren't that many independent liberal stations out there, and they put him on to try to allow for more distribution. Yeah. And unfortunately, he didn't even get a market in L.A. He can't be heard on terrestrial radio in L.A. because after Mitt Romney lost in 2012, he got pissed off and pulled the plug on all the progressive talk that was out there.
So AM
1150 became Patriot Radio. So it was all Sig Heil all up and down the aisle after that election.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, one of the operative philosophies behind the startup of Progressive Voices, and again, I hope I'm not talking out of school. Well, I'm not, because it was announced on the Lib Boat many, many years ago, is people who are in the know, who understand the broadcasting business far better than any of us do, is the simple fact that as a medium, radio, as we understand it, is dead and dying. Music radio is largely unlistenable. I heard a statistic on NPR this evening when I was heading back home. In music, 20% of the songs that hit the radio are written by 10 men. And in a way, that's kind of transferable over to talk.
That's incredible.
Yeah, isn't it?
Yeah, and most of the music you hear now is from the 70s and 80s. I mean, any culture, TV, commercial, movies, you don't hear anything current anymore.
Right.
Yeah,
Never.
Radio. You're quite right, Bob. As far as radio, I mean, it was. I think it was killed by Clear Channel and Cumulus. Not just the talk radio, but also music radio, because those stations
it was it was killed. It was killed by automation. It was killed by the desire to produce a product without having any human beings involved.
Exactly. And I'll just give you a little quick story here.
No little pimply-faced 15-year-olds learning to cue records.
Right. I mean, I don't even listen to terrestrial radio anymore, Bob. I listen to Sirius XM, and I listen to a channel called Deep Tracks, which has a guy by the name of Earl Bailey on it in the morning at my time, and he's like based in Cape Cod right now, but he's been up and down the East Coast. And then in the afternoon, I listen to Jim Ladd, who's like a Los Angeles legend as far as the FM radio, as far as a free-form radio artist, DJ, and
well, hell, he started underground radio, didn't he, in L.A., Jim Ladd?
I think he did. Yeah. He's been with all kinds of stations. So those guys, they tell their story through their music, and they have all sorts of segues. They'll have a theme. They'll have at noon, Earl Bailey will do 10 songs that are all related. The other day it was wood, as far as wood, the word wood was in a song. And, they just do stuff that you don't hear on terrestrial radio anymore, except maybe on Little Steven's Garage, which is somewhat syndicated, but I don't know how widespread it is. I don't know if you guys get that, but that's on it.
That's from Stevie Van Zandt from The Sopranos. So,
and also from Bruce Springsteen.
From the E Street Band, yeah.
Yeah. So
he was recently touring with Little Steven and the Disciples of Soul.
If you just watch TV, just turn it on right now. Even when you see a commercial, most of the back channel music you're going to get is from the 70s or 80s. There's, you're going to get Player or something, some obscure band from the 70s or 80s or Chilliwack.
Baby, come back. Gone, she's been gone so long, and been gone so long. Oh, I hate myself. You can say Player and Chilliwack, and I know what the damn hits were. God damn.
I don't know.
That stuff makes for great karaoke. It's actually within my range. I did yours. I killed your song at a dive bar on Wednesday night. No, there were a few people who appreciated it, but I was satisfied with how it turned out.
And I'll look at Karen, I'll say, "Is that Chili Wagon?" She'll look back and say, "Yeah, they must need the money." Well, it's like Bob always says, if the check clears, you know.
Yeah.
I refuse to buy a product advertised on TV or radio whose ad agency is so incompetent that the best that they can do is use some 40-year-old song.
Oh no. Well, see, I mean, I'm there too, Scott. But I develop a sincere and seething hatred for these companies that. I mean, you know, I guess maybe they needed the money. I mean, I'm thinking about in particular that little Scottish band that lovely little 70s ditty. Oh, 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 it's magic.
Oh, God.
You know, never believe it's not so. And so some godforsaken pharma buys it and turns it into, oh, 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 Zantic, your sugar's too fucking high. And I'm like, you evil bastards. It's bad enough this stuff runs on a constant loop in my head, and I can be earwormed by 2 goddamn notes, and now I'm getting it blasted at me on a fucking insulin commercial that is part of the reason that insulin has gone from $100 a month to $2,800 a month, you cocksuckers. Wow. I mean, it
name the group. Well, I'll name it. Nobody will, because it's called Pilot.
Yeah, exactly. Pilot. It is Pilot.
And what's the deal about this over-the-counter memory stimulant?
What's that, Scott?
What's this deal with this over-the-counter memory stuff that you can buy that they originally found in jellyfish?
I see what you did there, Rick.
No comment.
What's that, Tracy?
I saw what you did. I heard what you did there, Rick, with the what's that, Scott?
Yeah, I caught that too. It's like that one from the other night. If marijuana wipes out your short-term memory, how come I keep remembering to smoke marijuana?
Hey, Bob.
Yeah.
Am I on?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
What I really miss is when they really had good DJs and they would talk, they would have like anecdotes about the history of a band or something like that, and it was really educational. And now it's like that automated thing, and you don't get the name of this song, and it's just not like it used to be in the 80s. I guess that was like the last hurrah, you could say. I mean, for the DJ that actually informed people about the history of music, and then it started getting automated in the 80s.
Voice tracked. Yeah.
Well, I think you can actually track that to the song The Last DJ, actually the album The Last DJ by Tom Petty, where I think it was towards the end of the 90s, where just after the Telecommunications Act and everything got really standardized and all the local differences disappeared, and you could basically run stations through like a closet, like a box instead of with human beings. And everything got like the songs were segmented, and you didn't have any you wouldn't hear blues on a rock station, you wouldn't hear soul on a rock station, you wouldn't hear rock on a soul station, etc. Everything became kind of like homogenized.
Oh, and by the way, a pox on Bob Dylan. A pox on Bob Dylan for selling "Blowin' in the Goddamn Wind," an anti-war anthem to InBev Anheuser-Busch to push the fact that they're making beer with wind power. You evil bastards.
Bob.
He sold out when he went and was talking Victoria's Secret lingerie.
But before you hate on Bob, and I don't mean to interrupt you, friend, a lot of that is sold to whoever, like BMI or something. They have controlling interests, just like Michael Jackson had controlling interests over the Beatles music. So before you get all pissed off at at Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
And let's also focus on the fact that artists, the only way they make money these days, they don't make money through album sales or sales of iTunes, because they get like pennies on the dollar, and nobody's buying them. So they have to find other ways of revenue, and that's one way. They sell their rights to the songs for commercial TV. I mean,
So maybe so maybe it's not a pox on Bob Dylan, but son of a gun,
The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind.
That was just
no,
evil.
That's a different song. Actually, it's what's the song about Harvest the Wind? Is that what it is?
No. It was Blowing in the Wind. It ran on the Super Bowl.
Are you sure? Oh, the Super Bowl this year?
Yeah.
The one with the
Clydesdale.
Yeah. I didn't even see it. Okay. I
need.
God damn it! We gotta make some money here. Bob doesn't work on peanuts. All right, I'm gonna throw a $25 challenge out there.
Well, hold the phone, Steve.
Let's call it Steve's Peanut Challenge.
Well,
$25.
we gotta knock down the first challenge first.
Okay.
And so I've got a thank you to send out to Brian. Thank you, Brian, for jumping in. We have made up. Let's see. We had 130 to go, and now we've got $103 and. Wait a minute. We got $103.94. Thank you, Brian. We got $103.94 to finish off Chris in Germany's clap with Nancy challenge. 103.94. That would get us down to only $200 to go. So we're well past the halfway mark of the program this evening. We got about an hour and 17 minutes of radio left to finish the week, and we need to raise $303.94. $103.94 finishes Chris's challenge, and then we will move into, since there's a challenge on the table courtesy of Steve and Ms. Karen and Little Cletus and Little Twiggy, we will move on to that. So $103.94 to finish Chris's challenge, and then we'll get to work on the other $200. Is that fair, Steve?
Oh, that's perfect, Bob. I'm just trying to figure out your new donation system here, man.
All right, guys. I've got to step up here. This is. Can I meet Steve's challenge prematurely and then make my own challenge?
Well, why don't you meet a chunk of Chris's challenge?
Let's go to Chris's. Okay, I'm gonna throw 25 into Chris. Okay.
Okay.
The Chris's challenge, and I'm gonna throw another. I'm making a challenge of another 25. We'll call it the Save Progressive Talk Challenge. Don't let Bob's show end up on the graveyard of talk shows, or in the graveyard of talk shows.
Okay. So what that means, I've cheated. I've resorted to the calculator. We have $78.94.
Can I get rid of the 94? Can I make it $25.94?
Okay, then. Okay, $25.94. Then we have $78 to go on Chris's clap with Nancy challenge. And then we've got a challenge from Steve and a challenge from Billable Rick. So we've got a chance for people to double their money, well into just about the entirety of what remains for the week, which is huge. So thank you, Billable Rick, and thank you, Steve, and thank you, Chris. Thank you to Brian, and thank you to Henry, and thank you to Glasgow. So that's everybody this evening. Thank you all very, very kindly. And yeah, I guess Februaries are kind of rough because the Christmas bills have hit.
And there's only 28 days. That's 10% less than most months, you know.
That is absolutely true. But I'm still committed to the way we do these things. If we can get all our fundraising done, we will have in the first 3 weeks. The last week will be fundraising free radio, which I look forward to more than most people can imagine.
And if I could just say something, Bob, even though one talk show host derisively referred to your show as bake sale radio, your business model actually is working a hell of a lot better than some other models, let's just say. You know,
hey, Bob's still standing, man.
Exactly. I'm still standing.
Well,
Wait a minute.
I'm sitting. Truth be told.
What, bake sale radio?
Yes. Ed Schultz referred to Bob's show as bake sale radio one time.
Well,
Ed
he's
Schultz is
dead. So.
Well, I know.
We shouldn't laugh, Scott.
Wait a minute. Let's paraphrase the Al Pacino line from "Scent of a Woman." That's 2 "Scent of a Woman" references tonight alone, and that has probably not happened on any other radio program in this country, if not in the entire world. What does Al Pacino say about his buddy? He's dead and I'm blind. Fuck him. Hoo-ah.
If you're not careful, I'm going to launch into the dead parrot routine.
Oh, the dead parrot, you say?
He's not dead. He's sleeping.
He's pining for the fjords.
Oh, that's funny. That's great.
Bob, I've been having trouble with PayPal lately. Did that thing land? I mean,
let me see.
Oh, okay. I've noticed that.
Yes, it did.
I think I figured out what's going on. If your credit card changes or you get a new expiration date, they used to arc them. They don't do that anymore. So everybody needs to be mindful of that.
Okay. It has been weird. We've had a bunch of skipped, missed, and failed, and I generally don't bother people about that because I don't want to seem, pushy or rude. I mean, that's part of what.
Sure. Well, yeah,
but
it's
I've seen 3 or 4 of them, and I call PayPal and they're like, "Oh, we don't know, dude," and it's yeah.
I went to purchase a PayPal product that I get regularly all the time tonight, and what had happened was I left my credit card at the liquor store and called it in as missing, so they canceled it. Used to be PayPal would arc shit like that. Now they don't. You have to go in and manually remove the card and put in your new numbers. So, and I'm not trying to bore everybody. I don't mean to. I hear radios clicking off. I'm just saying that may be what's happening if you're having PayPal problems, because it happened to me personally today.
Also, Bob, if I could just mention from a distribution standpoint with your show, I accessed it from Head On Live. That doesn't always work for me. The old Head On Radio website worked a lot better, but I know you had a crash a while ago.
No, we just got the shit hacked out of us is what happened.
Okay. Is there any way to get that back up and running? Because that was a hell of a lot easier to use.
Not particularly. I'm trying to salvage the domain name, but...
Okay.
I mean, we were. John Fox remains convinced to this day that it was Fiends of Coal running.
Ace is a wizard. He's going to make this as easy as possible.
So, by the way, we are now down to thanks to Charlene and a member of the Sorority of Leans and a component of Tracy's Rocks Society. Just took us down to, and this is another part of the odd dollars and cents are a part of the PayPal thing too. So we are now down to $51.94. So $51.94 to go on Chris's Clap with Nancy challenge, and then let's see here.
Bob, I thought I took care of the 94 cents.
Well, you did, but it came back.
God damn it! Well, what to finish up?
We got a thanks now to Gary. We've got $1.94 to finish Chris's challenge. I'm just gonna zero that out, and we're gonna move now on to Steve's Peanut Challenge, and then we will move into Rick's. What was it?
So, it was called Save Progressive Talk Radio Challenge. Give to Bob, damn it.
So after Steve's challenge, the Save Progressive Radio Contribute to the Horn Challenge, damn it. And then and if those are both met, we'll only have $100 to finish the week.
Rick, I think you should move to
nice. We got plenty of time to do that. Yeah, nice. Dennis, what's going on, brother?
Hey, Dennis.
Not a whole lot. How you guys doing?
We're hanging.
Man, the news. I was totally waiting for an indictment today. I want Trump Jr. just to be run out there and just shoved in the public.
Oh, Donnie Flagpin Trump Jr. Jesus,
I was
the
hoping
stupid.
that it was enough time for Mueller and his guys to go through the files that they just got from the House Intel Committee, and I'm waiting for it. So I guess I have to wait till next Friday to see if that's.
It'll be. Don't hold your breath. It'll be another month or two probably. They take their time. You know, especially since it's the.
But aren't there a couple sitting there under seal right now?
Don't know.
That's the whole thing.
I thought I saw one of a screenshot of the docket, and it looks like there's a couple that are just sitting there under seal. And
well, you know, there's some thought that one of those could be against Trump himself.
That was exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah. Because you've got statute of limitations issues. I mean, 4 years in office is a long time. There's a hell of a lot of, I mean, most criminal statutes, I think the shortest criminal statute in the U.S. is like maybe for 5 years. That's like the catch-all statute if there's no specific statute of limitations embodied in a criminal statute. It's 6 years for tax offenses, 5 years for a lot of other stuff. So, you know, time runs when you're president. I mean, you know, it's not like you can say, oh, well, we didn't indict him because our Office of Legal Counsel guidance told us that you can't indict a sitting president. So therefore, Judge, can we indict him now? It's like, no, if the statute's gone, it's gone. And the only way to preserve it is to file a timely indictment under seal. And that would be fully consistent with the idea that you can't indict a sitting president, or at least you can't unseal an indictment against a sitting president until he's out of office.
I wish Judge John Sirica was still here. I'd like to see Trump go before Judge Sirica.
John Sirica, yeah, he was badass. He was badass. He threw the book at a lot of those Watergate conspirators, you know.
He threw the press that the book was printed on.
Yeah, right. It reminds me, I used to have this this long picture in my office about like a picture of a judge like on the bench, and then he's like throwing books down on this little tiny litigant, like throwing the book at him.
Oh, and by the way, I have a query coming in from Brother Deacon Asa. Ask folks to elaborate on how they want the website to be easier to use. I can take their suggestions and implement them.
Oh, okay.
I know the one for me is that when you open it, the audio's there, of course, for the radio, but you have to open a separate window or browser for the chat room.
Yeah, and that was done because it made the page load faster.
Okay. I noticed that when I'm on the Head-On Radio Network and there's the little box where you can kind of click play and pause and stuff, I oftentimes click on it and nothing happens. The time doesn't run. You know, it's supposed to go from 0, 0, 0, 0 to like 1, 2, 3, et cetera, and it just doesn't seem to work. Maybe, I don't know if it's because there's some delay in activation. I just tried to listen to it just now, and damned if it doesn't work. But it's you, Bob, like an hour ago talking about hot tub time machine Whittaker. And boy, was that guy out of his league or what today? Jesus Christ.
I've got a question about Whittaker.
Well, see, we haven't even hold on, Scott. We haven't even gotten to his blow up. Maybe this would be an appropriate time. When he was, you know, he was smart-assing around with Nadler and thought that he would white-splain to Representative Sheila Jackson Lee. That didn't play. So
God, she put him in his place. God, that was
so
funny.
when Jamie Raskin came around, well, it didn't work out well. Let's go to that audio just for the fun of it. And by the way, again, 2 challenges on the table now that we've met Chris's, and the way Rick structured his, if it gets what we'll wind up if those 2 challenges get met, we'll only have $75 to finish the week, which is freaking awesome. And maybe we need to come up with what am I looking at here? In the next hour and 4 minutes, we need $125.
Thanks, Rick. That was awesome of you, brother. I appreciate you, man.
Well, thanks, Steve. Thanks, Steve. I mean, there's no experience like this.
Yep.
On the
I love this more
kind of radio. So I really appreciate everybody in the community here, and all good things do end, and I don't want this to end. We just lost Norman, for example.
That's right. I mean, and I don't want that to be handwriting on
Yeah,
the
and
wall.
let me make clear, I would never dream of trying to poach an audience. We have something really, really special going on here. I would like to have more people participate, because I want more people talking. I said once upon a time, if the community ever grew big enough, shit, I'd start doing 6 hours, 5 hours of radio a day, and eventually bring back all 6 phone lines and and make it possible. Because for me, the essence of it all is the conversation.
Bob, you sell yourself so short, my man. I mean, you don't even have. I don't want to say this, but maybe I should. We need to get Bob a washer and a dryer. God damn it! I mean, shit. As hard as he works, he should be able to. I mean, we should do a GoFundMe or something, or
if we
get something together.
See, I keep thinking about something like a GoFundMe, but not for a washer and dryer.
And I'm sorry, Bob. I'm not trying to embarrass.
Well, no,
you.
I mean
I'm
it's a fact. The fridge, the washer, the dryer, the stove, they all got fried 7 years ago this July in the derecho, and
it knocked out your damn Gulfstream and your Maybach as well.
The cigar boat and all that just got towed.
Yeah. But no, I mean I still have this dream of putting up solar panels, expanding the studio. And yes, it would mean the end of naked radio as we know it, but being able to go to video. But the thing is, that's a GoFundMe on the order of $100,000 to get all the way off the grid is $100,000 or more. For like a $50,000 GoFundMe, we could put up solar panels, install like a propane powered backup generator that kicks in automatically in the case of an outage. Because the thing that most people don't know about solar is that you can have solar panels all over the place, but if you're grid tied and the power goes out, you're still out of power.
Sure.
So you've either got to have $70,000 worth of backup batteries, and that's a pain in the ass, or you've got to have some sort of backup power supply, backup generation system like one of those big Generac generators. But to be able to do something like that would be magnificent.
Absolutely.
You wouldn't have to give up naked radio. There's a gizmo that will pixelate your naughty bits.
It would even pixelated. It would be a horror. At the very least, we'd have to go to a Speedo, and that's quite possible. And just by virtue of what that does to the imagination, that only makes it worse.
Well, you could always have a European messenger bag as well, Bob, along with the Speedo.
Oh,
that pixelation going all the way to the floor is going to cost you a fortune, ain't it, Bob?
Yeah, do you have any idea how expensive those goddamn pixels are?
Well, Bob, you're not going to,
This water's cold. Wait, no, hey, Steve, we got to finish the joke. This water's cold. And Steve says, Deep two. There we go. Yes. God bless us. When we run in the gutter, we do run in the gutter.
Well, Bob, actually, if it's fully solar powered, your studio will be nice and cool. You'll have air conditioning, and there'll be no need for naked radio if you think of it that way.
Oh no. The studio is south facing, so even with the air in high summer, even with the air conditioning going full blast, it still gets it's very seldom do we get down into get the studio down to 70 degrees in July.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it can be absolutely sweltering back here with the air conditioner going.
Just as a side project, and all my Horn family, they all have my email. Shoot me an email. Let's give Bob a washer and a dryer. We can do this, man. Jeez. I mean, You're plumbed out for it, aren't you, Bob? I mean,
well, that's the other thing. No, the plumbing is an ongoing project. I mean, because the year of the derecho, then it got brutally cold and all the plumbing exploded, and you do a little here and you do a little there. We are very green here.
Yeah, and I'm sorry if I'm overstepping. I don't mean to. Trying to.
No,
help
you're not. You're not.
You know what would really be nice, Bob, is if we could somehow get former President Carter to like build a Habitat for Humanity house right on the property where you are, and just start all over. It sounds like you almost need to start all over.
Well, it's an 80+ year old house.
Yeah. I mean, I've got like a house that was built in 1941 before the war started. World War II, that is. And I'm gonna have to replace I've got a 100-amp power box that is at least 60+ years old, and I really need to do a 200 amp.
Wow. So do you still got the screw-in fuses, Rick?
Yep. Yeah, it's a company that went out of business.
Oh, God, that just gives me the horrors thinking about it.
It's a company that went out of business called, I forget what it was called, because the guy who looked at it today could see by the 3 letters what it was. Oh, Pacific something electric or whatever. And he said, oh, yeah, they went out of business. I said, is that because of house fires caused by their lousy systems? He said, yeah, that was it. So I've got one of those.
And you thought you were being a smartass.
I had a fuse box in Madison, and that one was scary, man. That was something scary.
Yeah. Well, I went to school at Northwestern. I lived in a dormitory that was built like in 1911, and the heating was from back then. And we had a really, really terrible cold one year. It was like probably 30 degrees below with wind chill, like maybe 40 below. And the heat went out on one side of the dormitory. So everybody who was on the cold side went to somebody who lived on the warm side, like separated by the hallway. So that was scary. And God knows what those fuse boxes looked like,
Unless I'm having audio hallucinations, I think Tracy's trying to chime in here, and we're walking all
over.
Yeah,
go, Tracy.
Tracy, what you got?
Girl.
I figured I was going to let all the white people talk.
Oh, no.
The white man talking. I figured eventually you guys would give me permission to speak.
Oh, stop it.
No, I didn't realize, Bob, you don't have a washer and dryer?
No.
I didn't know it either, Tracy. I didn't know it either. I went to call him one night, and he said, I'm at the laundromat. I'm like, what?
Oh, God. Oh, well, when Jen and I moved here, we had to, before we moved in, what did we have to do? We had to pay for, because none of our plumbing, because how old is this house? 1954. Because none of the plumbing works for our appliances, for the refrigerators, for the ice maker, and for the it hadn't been upgraded to stay cold. I mean, the things you have to do, but I didn't know that you didn't have a washer, dryer, or oven. Is that why? I mean, come on. Seriously,
yeah.
No oven either?
Yeah.
Well, there goes something that I was going to send you, so never mind on that one.
It fried everything. If we didn't there was a massive power surge when it blew the whole grid out.
And I know you hate this kind of shit, Bob, but that further endeared me, because you're putting aside all these necessities that we all take for granted to do your radio show, And
you're a better man than me, because there's no fucking way.
Bob, right? And that's why we need to start a separate page or something. At least,
Hey, Bob, you deserve to live. Bob, was there any way for you to go after the power? Was there any way to go after the power company? Because I was at Stars a couple of weeks ago.
No, that was true. Even I have to agree. I mean, granted, it's a rickety old power grid, but that thing was a massive statewide disaster. There were people who were out. We were out of power for 3 weeks. There were people who were out of power for 6.
Unless you have an Ultraflex umbrella coverage, they're going to say it's an act of God, and they're going to tell you to sue your electric company, which
even if you go after the electric company, okay?
Yeah.
What happened with
Well,
Stars?
you can, but you know where that's going to take you, Rick.
Yeah.
See what happened. Everything that wasn't behind an uninterruptible power supply cooked. So like the TV, the TV in the living room, the microwave, the toaster oven, the whole stove, the refrigerator, the freezer, the washer, the dryer, the water heater, all of it.
Yeah, that really sucks because I was saying we had a power Stars a couple of weeks ago, and it was like limited to maybe 15 houses in this area because I guess what happened with a transformer went bad, and there was some kind of a weird electrolysis reaction between the aluminum and the copper in the what do you call it? The things that come from the transmitter to the properties, the connectors, I guess you call it, and that caused some things to get fried. Some people lost Star lost part of her freezer, refrigerator. The fan went bad. She lost like a HEPA filter system that she had, but the stuff that was plugged into power plugs was all okay, but it basically cooked. People lost TVs, people lost computers, and the thing about that is that's caused by the electric company's negligence. Whereas I guess the derecho is just an act of God that's not related to anything the electric company did or didn't do, except for the fact their system sucks.
Good luck going after your power company. Good luck.
With all the power companies. What is it, like Edison and PG&E? Now they're adding tax to us, to the consumers, to pay for the people them being sued because they're all they're not government owned, they're shareholders. And I'm like, wait a minute, you're charging me all this money because y'all are incompetent, and you want us to pay for your stuff?
Yeah, because you failed to clear the brush along your right-of-ways that you have easements for,
Right.
Well, and the same thing happens here because the power company has all these easements, all these right-of-ways, and they very seldom clean them up. So, for instance, if I could maintain a connection, I could fire up Facebook video, drive out the road, and I could show you where a pine tree is leaning across the road on a power line.
And you got power lines stretched through acres and acres and acres of pine trees. I know, I've seen it.
And they're and the power poles themselves are basically it's heavy gauge wire strung on toothpicks. And by the way, I have to send out thanks to Earther. We now have only $17.18 to go on Rick's challenge, and then we'll get going on Steve's. So $17.18 to finish Rick's Don't Let Progressive Radio Go Off the Air, Contribute to the Horn Dammit challenge, followed by the Bob's Peanut Challenge, Steve's Peanut Challenge. There we go. So we're making progress, and we got about 50 minutes to cover a ton of ground.
Tracy, two things real quick. Thank you for the heads up on the interview with the woman, the writer, whose mother in Detroit was a numbers runner.
That was Bob.
I listened to that interview last night. It was a hell of an interview. I want to read that book.
Yeah, I ordered it. I should be getting it tomorrow. But can we talk about how, I don't know if you guys already talked about it because I chimed in, I came in later, but Sheila Jackson Lee clowning at, basically dog walking Matt Whittaker.
Yeah, she snapped the leash on and drug him.
Yeah.
She drugged his ass. It's like I don't understand why these people think that they can talk to black women any old kind of way. It's like, you're gonna. She said, what did she say? This is not funny.
Yeah, that was awesome, Tracy. Did you see Hank Johnson from Georgia? He owned him too, man.
Yeah.
Because Todd sent me a text message.
Oh, okay.
Whittaker is being, and I'm like, Whittaker? Who? Forrest Whittaker? I'm sorry. You know I never know anybody's names. Because I was thinking that Forrest Whitaker was clowning Liam Neeson about, his comment about, I'm going to go hunting black men because, I'm a pissed off white guy. And I thought Forrest Whitaker was clowning Liam Neeson. But no, he's like, no, the acting attorney general. And then, of course, I had to look it up. And it was so funny. Just as he sent me the text message, because I saw it, then KNX 1070 out here, our new station radio out here, play Sheila Jackson Lee clowning Matt Whittaker. Oh, it's so cool. And I sent Bob, the clip, because she's like, did she take off her glasses? Because that's usually when if you got the two things that you do, that you know you're in trouble. When you did, when you get the clap back, and then, or when somebody takes off their glasses and points the glasses at you.
Oh, that was awesome. That was better than professional wrestling, man. She just owned his ass, man.
But the whole thing was a nightmare. I queued this thing up a while back.
I'm a nerd. I watched the whole damn.
Well, and it was like one after another. People just tightening old hot tub right up, and this exchange with Jamie Raskin just blew me away. I mean, he did everything short of just plain calling hot tub a crook. And by the way, an anonymous contributor has wiped out the last 17-18 of Rick's challenge, and Ralph's has knocked out $5 of yours.
Oh, great.
Steve, so we got $20 to go to finish that challenge, at which point we will then have $75 to go.
Nice.
To finish the whole blessed week.
We're going to get there, man. We're going to get there.
So let's go to the Jamie Raskin clip. Tracy, did you not hear this one?
Is that the one when he's like, so let me get this straight. You have the charity with only one employee? Is that it?
Yeah, that's this one. Yeah, let's roll.
I can listen to that all day.
According to the Washington Post, in 3 years after he arrived in Washington, Whittaker received more than $1.2 million as the leader of a charity that reported having no other employees. That's a pretty good deal. Now, what was the name of the charity that you ran, Mr. Whittaker?
Congressman, you've mentioned a lot in your...
No, but I'm asking you a very specific question. What was the name of the charity?
You have challenged my character.
No, I'm asking you a question. I control this time, Mr. Whittaker. If you want to ask the chairman for time of your own, you can do it. This is my time. Mr. Whittaker, you don't run this committee. You don't run the Congress of the United States, and you don't run the judiciary.
Gentleman will suspend. The gentleman is correct. The witness will answer the questions, and it's up to the gentleman to decide what questions. The gentleman will continue. We'll resume.
What was the title of the not-for-profit that you ran?
What time period? Sir?
Oh, what a time for the audio to get hinky on me.
This is like watching Chauncey Gardner try to become the acting attorney general, Bob. This guy, he's like so out of his league. John Dean
What was the last title? I know it changed its name 3 different times, right? What was the final name?
While I was employed as the executive director, it was called the Foundation for Accountability and Civic Trust.
Did you name it?
I did. Actually, you know...
Those are highly noble goals, accountability and civic trust. So let's talk about some accountability and civic trust. Mr. Whittaker, I've got a question for you.
No, you asked me a question.
I asked you a question. I control the floor, Mr. Whittaker. You don't understand. Now,
gentleman is correct. The gentleman controls the time, and if he wishes, as many members have done on occasion, they make a statement, they don't even ask a question, but if he wishes to proceed to another question, it's his time.
But Congressman, I do not feel, Mr. Chairman, I do not feel like my answer would be complete on the record.
It's up to
the question he asked.
Okay, Mr. Whittaker, see if you can get into this. Tell us where the money came from that you were paid, the $1.2 million that you were paid before you went to the Department of Justice. I'm asking my question.
Mr. Chairman, point of order, which overrules your question. Point of order.
The gentleman will explain his point. The gentleman will suspend. The gentleman will state his point of order.
Look, we're going to go down this probably many more times, but again, If you wanted to do a confirmation hearing, this is not under the scope of this hearing. This is not a confirmation hearing and is not shown to be a...
Mr. Chairman, this goes to
the gentleman's point of order is not well taken. The gentleman from Maryland has the discretion to ask the questions. The gentleman will proceed.
Appeal the ruling of the chair.
The gentleman has appealed the ruling of the chair. The gentlelady has moved to table. All in favor of the motion to table the appeal of the ruling of the chair will vote aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Aye. The ayes have it. The ruling of the motion is tabled.
Mr. Chairman, you and I engage in a call.
The gentleman will...
Now, here's the thing, and Billable Rick, you'll recognize this, as would say Steve in New York, also practicing at the trial bar. When Steve from Georgia stands congressman, point of order, sir, point of order. When he pulled that shit, what he was doing was buying time.
Don't rub my nose in that asshole. I never voted for him, man.
I don't want to hear about any. I don't want to hear about any nose rubbing. Joe Manchin's my fucking senator. Okay. How many your boy Joe emails do I get?
I proudly voted for Stacey Abrams, so that's where I stand. And
so, but what he does? So he's buying Hot Tub some time, and during the time that Hot Tub is sitting there, lo and behold, another guy comes over and whispers in Hot Tub's ear and says, "Son," and I mean, I'm just guessing here, "Son, you're about to find out what the fuck contempt of Congress is if you don't play nice, you little dumbass." You've seen it. You know, the line of questioning is getting a little painful, and Your Honor, I object. State your objection, counselor.
It's improper.
The question is improper, immoral, immaterial, more prejudicial than probative, and this here ain't no confirmation hearing. Woo! Dumbass cracker fuck.
I don't have C-SPAN on my cable because I just have limited basic plus HBO. But I'm going to have to fire up the laptop tonight and get C-SPAN and watch the recorded
Scott, if you
this is probably like a 4-martini hearing for you, Scott, because it lasted like 6 hours.
Oh my God!
I had no idea.
You're going to be totally wasted by the end of it.
I had no idea.
Do they do Washington Journal on Saturday mornings?
Oh,
Yeah,
they do it every
morning.
day of the week, even Christmas morning. They don't skip a day, man.
Because Washington Journal tomorrow is going to be a goddamn zoo.
Oh, that may be the morning I'll have to call in.
Did I just see John Bredevo sneak in?
Yeah, Uncle John's here.
Yes.
I seen him, man.
I snuck in on y'all. How about that?
Hey, Brother John, how are you, buddy?
Hanging in there, bub. I'm sorry I'm late again. Rose's car is not out of the repair shop yet, so I'm still playing chauffeur, baby. So I just got back from picking her up from work, but I'm happy to be here.
And we're happy to have you, buddy. We missed you last week.
Yes, I missed it myself, Bob. I was plumb disappointed I didn't get to be on the show last week. I missed y'all. So
we missed you too, brother. We love you, man.
I was afraid. I was afraid that maybe the new method of entering the room had maybe bumfuzzled you, because it certainly did bamboozle me for a little bit.
There's just a whole lot of shit going on, and you know how it is when shit flies. You got to duck every once in a while. So. That's it. You get it all over yourself. And
today's reading is from the books of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and Duck. Yeah.
Hey, Duck, I remember that guy. So how the hell y'all been doing anyway?
Just sorting out the State of the Union. That's all. I don't mean the speech. I mean the general thing.
Well, I did see the speech. What there was of it.
What a waste of time.
Yeah,
what did Slim Whitman say? Slim Pickens say in Dr. Strangelove? I've been to 2 rodeos. and a dinner on the ground, and I ain't never seen the likes of this. And a goat roping, and I ain't never seen nothing like this.
What is that? I got a T-shirt that says, if I could quote this thing, I doubt if I can get all the way through it. I don't smoke dope, swing rope, cuss, dance, romance, fart, fuck. Been around the world 2 times, seen 3 World's Fairs, seen goats fucking in the market, but I ain't never seen no shit like this. Something like that.
That's kind of where we're living now, isn't it?
Ain't it, though? Ain't it? It's a show that keeps on going daily, baby. Daily.
Can't keep up.
Did y'all get to see Mr. Whittaker on the?
Oh, we were just talking about.
Yeah, well, in fact,
I miss all the good shit.
No, I've got the clip going now. Let's see if we can make it work again.
Has moved to table. All in favor of the motion to table the. We're in the
Make off some longer a point of order when that needs to be made.
I hope.
Right now,
Good if it'd be useful if it was actually a point of order.
Everyone will please suspend. The gentleman made a point of order. It was ruled out of order. Right now, the gentleman has the time. If the ranking member wants to make a point, I'll recognize him after the gentleman is completed. The gentleman will resume.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's been reported publicly that there was one donor. And as we understand it, I think you're testifying today that you were the sole employee of the group. So there was one donor and one employee. Do you know who the donor was to the group that funded your salary for $1.3 million?
Yes, I do.
Who was the donor?
The donor was another nonprofit 501c3 organization called the Donors Trust.
Okay, now that was the pass-through vehicle, but who reached into their pocket and wrote the check to go through that to pay your salary?
Congressman, as you know, because you've looked at this issue, the Donors Trust is much bigger than the Foundation for Accountability and Civic Trust and raises millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars every year. I actually, as I sit here today, have no idea who the donors to Donors Trust.
Okay.
That's bullshit, of course. And the other thing is, he's absolutely right. The Donors Trust is it is a gigantic wingnut welfare outfit. The Donors Trust isn't out there, I don't know, providing medical care for little kidnapped immigrant children sleeping on concrete floors in dog cages. No. It is
just in case you need to pay off a hooker or some movie star or some shit.
Right. Exactly. So he's gonna keep dancing though. Somehow or another, a hot tub time machine doesn't strike me as a very good practitioner of rope-a-dope. It's all dope and no ropa.
No rope at all, baby. It's all dope.
So, speaking of rope-a-dope, one of his most common tactics to eat up time was, well, Congressman, that's a very good question. I'm glad you asked it.
Yeah.
Now, let me explain to you and articulate in a very fine manner why I'm going to sit here and talk for seconds and bad that shit. And then I'm sorry, I forgot the question.
And
Exactly, and he pulled that stuff like 5 or 6 times, and then a congresswoman preempted him, or congressman preempted him by saying, "Look, I know you're going to say this is a wonderful question. All my questions are wonderful. You don't need to thank me for asking the question, okay?"
Here we go.
Let's move along.
Yeah, let's get.
Thank you. All right. Well, then I've got a theory that I want to float with you, and it goes to something very strange that's been happening at the Department of Justice recently. A casino billionaire and magnate Sheldon Adelson hates online gambling for obvious reasons. It's competition for him. He wants people in the casinos, not online. And he spent more than $1 million lobbying Congress to override a 2000 opinion by the Office of Legal Counsel at DOJ saying that the Wire Act plainly prohibits only sports gambling online, not gambling in the states, which is why Florida, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, lots of states have built important businesses for themselves online. But Congress wouldn't change the law according to the demands of Mr. Adelson. So rather than change the law, he decided to try to get the Department of Justice to change the interpretation of the law. And he threw millions into a campaign to remake the DOJ and get the Office of Legal Counsel to perform a complete reversal and say that the Wire Act bans the kinds of lotteries that states run online, even though its language plainly prohibits only sports betting. And when Donald Trump won and Mr. Sessions became AG and you became Chief of Staff, DOJ leadership ordered a reevaluation of this legal question. And what do you know? the Office of Legal Counsel found some subtle and invisible points of law that apparently escaped the Department of Justice back in 2011, and it reversed the plain reading of the interpretation, which talks specifically about sports betting. Now, were you involved in that decision?
Congressman, the General Sessions was recused at the time that decision came out.
So were you recused too?
I was recused, and so I was not involved in that decision.
Did you ever talk to Sheldon Adelson about it?
No, I've actually never met Sheldon Adelson.
Okay. Did you talk to any of his lobbyists about it?
No, I did not.
Did you talk to Charles Cooper about it?
No, but I do know Charles Cooper, and I would point out one of the things, Mr. Rath.
Well, look, if you can ask the chairman for time, but I can't give you my time. Forgive me. We only have 5 minutes.
OLC opinion came out.
The gentleman controls the time. At the conclusion of his statement,
the chairman not
at the conclusion of his 5 minutes, I will afford the witness some time, but the gentleman controls the time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In January and February of 2018, the chairman and vice chairman of Wild Rose Casino and Resorts, a casino in Iowa, each donated $2,600 to your Senate campaign, which was over 4 years before when you lost that campaign. How did these casino operators come to donate to your campaign several years after you lost? Did you talk to them?
I love that.
I mean, the gentleman has expired. Right. The witness may answer the question.
To answer your question.
God almighty. And by the way, thank you to Ron and Raleigh for the exact quote. Well, I've been to one World Fair, a picnic, and a rodeo, and that's the stupidest thing I ever heard come over a set of earphones.
There you go.
Ron says, write it down for future reference. What I need to do is go and capture the audio and just make a button out of it so I can run that the same way that from time to time I feel compelled to run this.
You dick!
Yes.
Are you shitting me?
Yeah. And by the way, Steve in New York says, in these fucked up days, you got to love this thing called oversight. Oh, my God.
I'll tell you what. I got to throw this in here. Did y'all see the clip of AOC, Miss Ocasio-Cortez?
Yes, we did.
That impressed me.
This is the Green New Deal, announcing the Green New Deal?
The one I linked earlier in chat.
Well, it was her playing a little game there in the committee, asking just exactly what she can get away with as a politician.
Yeah,
oh. and it really highlights, not that a single one of us should not have already been aware of it and well aware of it over the years that those with the money make the rules, but her little game there on the committee just really highlighted just how easy it is to be a crook in our government.
And that one line, there are practically no laws that apply to the President of the United States.
That's it, right there at the end. So if a congressman or a senator can get away with that, look what he can get away with. That's bullshit.
Exactly.
As a citizen out here, you just got to think to yourself, are you shitting me? It's that easy, Hell, Bob, let's go into politics, buddy. Let's get us a couple of packs going,
No shit. Let's see here. I'm trying to get this over onto. I'm trying to get this to where I can get at the audio of it. Kitty in Boston said, "I forgot to mention Sheila Jackson Lee today, but just sent you a clip from Representative Mary Gay Scanlon's questioning. All I can hear is slap, 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 and an uproarious laughing emoji. And why am I not seeing this on?
Well, based on Whittaker's testimony, I can see why they didn't want him to testify. Until now, they put it off as long as they could until he was threatened with a subpoena. And the guy is a horrible witness. he's just skeevy. What can you say?
He probably lost about 5 pounds of water weight sweating it.
Probably so. He probably had to change his underwear after every bathroom break. Oh man,
what a nightmare. Meanwhile, Steve in New York says, it's very simple. The reason they hate Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is because she's smarter than they are. And,
right.
and there's nothing more intimidating. Well, no, let me put it this way. The only thing more intimidating to a Republican male than an intelligent person generally is an intelligent woman. Because they still live in a universe where their dream world is barefoot and pregnant. They're just, Jesus, it comes through every damn time.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's
hey, Bob, do you remember those 16 hours of questioning that they did for Hillary Clinton? She never responded like this.
Oh no. Well,
no. I had an email earlier that said if Hillary Clinton had behaved like a hot tub time machine, she would have been in contempt of Congress so fast that her head would have spun. But instead,
well, look at Brett. Yeah, I mean, look how Brett Kavanaugh acted recently during his confirmation hearings. It's IYAR. It's okay if you're a Republican.
That's some hell. That's some hellacious good privilege. Yeah, Tracy.
No, because it's okay. Because when you said what Rick just said about whatever, because I can't, my short-term memory is like I said about the length of a special needs nap.
Yeah.
So
Oh no, it's not Tracy.
No, it's bad. I mean, I'm at that point when I have to write notes. I was cooking dinner last night while listening to Scott and Bob talk last night, and a friend of mine called. And I'm like, well, I'm cooking dinner, and if I stop to talk to him, then I'll never get dinner done. And I'm like, okay, remember to call him after you finish cooking. Did I remember to call? What time did I remember to call him? At 2 o'clock. I woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning like, shit. I was supposed to call him back. So no, it's really fucking bad. It's like, but like you said, these men are terrified of intelligent women, and then even more so of intelligent black women, especially like you said, when there's no histrionics, involved, and they're answering and asking questions in a reserved and calm manner, and just like who was Maxine Waters going after? It's like I'm reclaiming my time. Who was she going after? That who was that?
Oh,
that was an ass.
Oh God, who?
So like Betsy DeVos or someone like that, or
no, it was a white man.
Oh,
that what makes me just desperately want that to have been Jefferson Davis Beauregard Sessions III.
Oh yeah.
But by the way, I do now have the clip that Kitty sent me of the exchange between Representative.
See?
No, Mary Gay Scanlon.
Oh, okay.
This is...
that's restaurant quality questioning, Bob.
And props to Lucy McBath. She was awesome today as well.
Well, I mean, they brought their A game.
Absolutely, man.
I mean, I kept waiting for
and be proud to be from Georgia.
And really by the way, Marty points out the Republican dream world is Gilead. Gilead, from Handmaid's Tale. Yeah, here's Mary Gay Scanlon. This is another. There were just, and in a way, I'm glad that we have the increase in female representation in the Democratic caucus in the House that we have, because in many ways it's two guys going at each other becomes, if you'll forgive my crassness, a dick measuring contest.
Mm-hmm. A pissing contest, right?
Yeah, and he doesn't know how to. Yeah, remember this is an old jock, okay, and he doesn't know what to do when he actually can't simply dismiss a woman when she has more power than he does. And so this is a lovely moment.
Is that right?
Well, yes, I talked about the burn jag grants.
Thank you. And one of those cities is Philadelphia, right?
I believe so, yes.
I happen to represent Philadelphia. Isn't it true that Judge Mike Bailson of the Eastern District of Pennsylvania ruled that the Department of Justice's attempt to withhold this money was illegal and unconstitutional.
Congresswoman, that is the...
Isn't it correct that that was the ruling of the federal court?
Congresswoman,
Isn't it
I am not
correct
going to
that that was
discuss
the
an
ruling
ongoing litigation.
Isn't it
matter.
correct that the federal court ruled that the Department of Justice's action was illegal and unconstitutional? That's a matter of public record, sir. Is it correct?
Congresswoman, I don't disagree
Mr.
that a
Whittaker,
district court judge
you
found
may be confused here. This may appear to be a contact sport, but it's not a gridiron, and I'm not letting you run out the time, okay? Isn't it true the federal court ruled that that was illegal and unconstitutional?
Congresswoman, again,
Okay,
it's
I'll take that as a
subject of
yes.
ongoing litigation.
Isn't it also true, Mr. Whittaker? Mr. Whittaker, I'm asking the question. Isn't it also true that the court found that the Department of Justice had not produced any credible evidence that undocumented immigrants committed crime at a higher rate than any other group?
Congresswoman, this is the subject of ongoing litigation.
Isn't it true that the federal court found that in a public opinion?
Congresswoman, I am not going to comment on
Okay, I'll take that as a yes as well. Let's move on to some other questions. And just to be clear, I'm asking oversight questions about your enforcement priorities during your tenure, okay, at the Department of Justice. I want to make sure we're clear on when that tenure began. I have a date of September 22nd, 2017 that you became Chief of Staff. Is that correct?
That is incorrect.
Okay. When is your first working date as Chief of Staff for Attorney General Sessions?
I started at the Department of Justice on October 4th of 2017.
Okay. And then you became Acting Attorney General.
Yeah. And like Kitty says, you can just hear the... It's a lovely...
he's gonna have to soak in the hot tub for about 3 hours after that.
Oh, he's going to want the time. He's going to want the time machine part of it, because
go back.
I mean, he's like full of welts. He's going to feel like he did at the University of Iowa. Although, as I pointed out, the guy was like a third-rate tight end. He only caught like 200 yards worth of passes in 3 years. You know.
And then the one, and I've been looking for the audio and I can't find it. But this is a hell of a moment. I referred to it earlier, Hakeem Jeffries. By the way, $20 to finish Steve's challenge, and after that, only $75 to go. Marty reminds us was the Reclaiming My Time confrontation was with Steve Mnuchin. Yeah. But Hakeem Jeffries, and I wish I had the audio, but I don't, said, "I'm confused. I really am. We're all trying to figure out, who are you? Where did you come from? How the heck did you become the head of the Department of Justice? Hopefully you can help me work through this confusion." And that's when he starts to, Hot Tub starts to run off at the mouth. And Jeffrey says, "That was a statement, not a question. I assume you know the difference."
Not quite. Not quite.
I mean,
touche.
These people put on, I mean, I know it's probably terrible for me to say, but these people put on their temp rings, and I mean, the big ones with the gold nuggets and the diamonds, and started bent down on the floor with their hand, and they came up from the floor and slapped this man. I'm surprised that he is not black and blue. I mean, it's just, oh my God.
Yeah, that's a different kind of blackface.
He had it coming though. Yeah, and did you hear Louis Gohmert, Bob, how he tried to save him, and they were always, all the right was always trying to throw him a lifeline. Yeah. Always, you know, it was like this teeter-totter saw that always went back and forth. The right would come on, and they're shameful. They're still backing fucking Trump, even after all this shit that he said and we got against him. It doesn't matter. They're still going to back him.
Hang tight, Steve, baby. It's coming, buddy. It's
coming. Yeah, Uncle John. This was just the beginning. This was just the
this
teaser.
This is what I said. It is, you know, we had the midterms. That was great. We had the holidays, Christmas, New Year's. We had to get past the MLK holiday and
this
was the
teaser.
This
is just the fried calamari you have before you do your pasta, okay?
Just the appetite.
Did I hear correctly? because I didn't see the proceedings today. Did someone say, or did Whittaker actually say that he wanted to reclaim his time?
Oh, he tried to manage the clock. I believe your 5 minutes are up.
He was talking to the chair.
Yes, he's talking to the chairman of the committee.
Well, here's the deal. It's not his time. It's not her time. It's not their time. This is going on in the people's house. It's the time that belongs rightfully to the people.
Right.
And the people want to know what the fuck.
Well, that was right out of the gate, Scott. That was within the first 5 minutes. You had these fireworks explosion with him saying, "Your 5 minutes are up." And Jerry Nadler's, you could just tell the look on his face. And somebody else yelled out, "Maybe we should suspend the 5-minute rule." And I was like, "Yeah, suspend it." You know.
Yeah, it was. Oh, and by the way, we have a new friend in the room this evening, and I want to welcome him. Suman is with us, who issued the Fall Curry Challenge that I'm going to accept. Welcome to the group, Suman. It's really great to have you.
Thanks, Bob. Hey, everyone.
And
hey, Suman,
welcome to the group, baby.
Thank you.
So
listening to you guys for a while.
You gotta give us a little bit of a précis on this Fall Curry. I'm absolutely taken with the idea. Is it going to be a life-changing experience?
Well, Bob, the recipe I sent to you was actually a milder version of the curry. Okay, so I didn't want to get your mouth burnt or something.
No.
If you Google it, you'll find that it is the spiciest dish on the planet.
All right, Bob, you got to fill in the blanks. So
now you got my attention, baby.
A lot of people like me.
Yeah, see, Suman sent me the mild. What is this? Like the mild kindergarten version?
Yes, that's a good way of putting it.
And I said at the beginning of the program, anybody else who wants this same recipe, and we can all try it. And wouldn't it be fun if we all took videos of ourselves?
What are we talking about? A tomato-based hot sauce? Or
No. It's a South Asian curry.
Nice.
Is this like with ghost peppers in it or something like that? Suman?
It's the base of the curry is made with fried red chili flakes.
Oh man! And what food is it preferred on? Just anything that you like hot sauce on, or?
No, there's no hot sauce in it. The chilies will just be more than enough.
Yeah,
but what is your preferred food to put it on?
Oh, chicken.
Oh, I see. Chicken.
Okay, fried, oven baked, doesn't matter.
No. It's a curry, so it's cooked in the sauce, right?
You could bake it if you want to be healthy, I suppose, but I would just cook it inside the base.
Yeah, I'm stoked. And like I said, just in hopes of not gassing my family again. I've done that before. When the weather gets decent enough for me to set up the Coleman outdoor stove, I'm going to do it out there, and hopefully I won't gas myself either frying the chili peppers. But I just happen to have a bag of wee little evil dried red chilies that my colleague in the 8 campaign, Bo, sent to me, and I've been waiting for just the right moment, and this looks like it.
Oh, there you go.
Well, Bob, didn't you say that one of your favorites was shake and bake chicken thighs? Because Karen and I did that last night, and I'm like, Bob's right. This is really hard.
It's a genius thing, and shake and bake pork chops are the only way out. I mean, that's just how you do pork chops.
And it was delicious too, man.
You and Jan with this damn shake and bake. Oh.
Yeah, I know we're lazy, Tracy. Go ahead, beat us up. I mean,
did you say it's just so damn white, Tracy?
But it worked.
Yeah.
And I helped.
Right. And everybody, the minute you say shake and bake, everybody from a particular demographic, the generational age demographic goes, and I helped.
I would have never even went there, but I remember Bob saying not too long ago that, one of his favorite chicken recipes was shake and bake chicken thighs. I was like, well, damn, Bob's
It's so
got a
funny
good
because
culinary
until,
taste.
seriously, until Jan and I got together, it was an abomination. No, I didn't shake and bake. My mother would have bitch slapped me. No. We don't,
But it works for thighs, though, doesn't it, Bob? I mean, back me up, brother.
Oh, yeah.
Seriously, I never had shake and bake until we got
Well,
until
see,
Jan and I got together.
I love chicken thighs. Chicken breast.
Chicken thighs are the best.
Chicken breast just kind of bores me.
They dry out.
But chicken thigh, and there's not enough to really go after on a leg. But man, a thigh's got all that lovely, wonderful.
Oh man, it was great. I had 2 of them, and I couldn't eat anymore. And it's like, man, and I had a side of hot barbecue sauce, and it worked all the way around for something so easy. And I was like, I gotta mention this.
Bob?
Yes?
I've got your definitive soundbite. It's not fried, Daddy. It's shake and bake. And I help.
That's right up there with that old
well, God damn it, it works.
You know, the Rice Krispie Treats commercial when the woman's in the kitchen chilling, and and then she puts those water on her face and flour, and comes out the kitchen like she did so much work on the.
Oh, I remember that. Yep. Yes.
And I got a question I got to ask Mr. Bob before we get on out of here. Bob, you got a minute?
I got 2.
That milk that you recommended to me, what's the name of it?
Fairlife. Fairlife.
Fairlife.
Yeah.
I couldn't find it in my routes.
All right, let me ask you all this. Why does it have such a ridiculously long shelf life? Most of the times you go to the store, you find a half gallon or gallon of milk, it's good 10 days out. I picked this up last week, and it's good through mid-April. And that has me wondering. That has me wondering. What are they adding to this, or is it just that fresh, or is the milk I've been getting from like Mayfield that old? I mean,
I have one word for you: plastics.
Well, I can't.
I think it really is. It's in the packaging, because you can buy boxes of those little mini moos, half and half creamers.
Yep.
And they're real milk, but they're sealed up, and I guess they're totally anaerobic, and they're not even in the refrigerator section. They're just on the shelf.
It was great milk, no denying it, but I just wondered if anybody had an honest answer.
Steve, I might be able to help you.
Please do, Scott.
I can't tell you what it is, but I can tell you what it's not. It's not Scaramucci milk.
It's not milk they froze into cubes or anything and just.
It lasts more than 11 days, in other words.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This is like.
It's probably some evil chemical process that we'll find out.
Stop it, Bob.
Because it's from the Coca-Cola company.
I was hoping you would tell me it just came out of the cow a day or 2 ago, and you got all this time. Don't worry about it.
When I was a kid, our milk lasted for a month, maybe 2. Of course, you had to put it in a thing and add water to it, shake it up. My mom said it was milk. I didn't never believe her. Pour this on your cereal. Mom, that's just water, and it's white. That's it, baby. I remember that shit.
You had to suffer with the dry non-fat milk?
Yeah.
There
lots of times when I was a kid. Yeah.
Nothing nastier in the world.
That's terrible.
Nothing. Especially when you sit there and watch it being made.
The overall consensus is there is no answer to my question. Then
I think so, but hey, John, I'm gonna forward you the link that Suman sent since you are a professional eater of spicy things.
I love things that bite me back.
And you and I will both do video when we make this stuff.
I can do that, Bob.
And we can. Hell, wouldn't it be fun if we could do a split screen?
Oh,
rattlesnake
of two old white dudes just with the sweat pouring, going, God damn, this is good.
Bob, in my new, my son is fixing me up a thing because I got some ideas on trying to take my show to a different level, and I'm going to call it Voices from the Blue Wave, where I can get people in our Blue Dot family to get on Skype with me there, much like we do right here, and and in an empty bedroom in my house, I have a green screen behind me. My son got, and I don't know what the hell he plans on throwing up there, but
well, I hope he doesn't. I hope he doesn't. I hope he doesn't throw up anything, man. I didn't know he was sick. Ah.
He can put it up there, baby.
He could have you surfing in the French Alps, man.
Hey, John, if you want to be the invisible man, wear some green in front of the green screen.
I could do that. I could do that.
or just paint your lips and mouth or something.
Hey, wait. Well, no. We're back to face painting again. Let's just stay away from that for a little while.
I want to do that, Bob. Let's do that. Let's do that live.
Yeah, won't that be fun?
Yes, I think so.
Suman, you have no idea what you've started.
That's awesome. I'll tell you what. Why don't you
look at these wimps?
Keep a bottle of scotch and Pepsi right next to you. When the spice really hits your tongue, take a swag of scotch.
Really?
Words of wisdom.
Wait. This comes with the double bonus of being an excuse to drink scotch?
Yes.
Nice. Oh, there you go.
It's gonna double the spice.
Oh, winning!
Does it have to be scotch? I don't have any scotch. I got bourbon.
Suman, what is your favorite food? Your favorite main course? Your meat dish? If you could wave a wand and just have your favorite meat dish arrive at your dinner table the next time you eat, what would it be?
It would be, I think, chicken tikka masala. I'm sure that.
God, I love it.
Chicken tikka. That is awesome, Suman. Oh, I love that stuff.
Chicken.
Oh, and our buddy Dave from Talibandiana is taking up the challenge.
Outstanding.
He said, "I'll ask Christine to help me make it. She's not into the spicy foods, but if she takes one bite of it, I'll kick in $10 to the horn." She's always saying she's willing to help out, and now I can put that to the test and get a couple of laughs along the way. God damn, Dave, you like to live dangerously.
Throwing $10 to boot.
Hey, last night, Bob, you were wondering about my quick review of Hello, Dolly.
Oh, yes.
It was awesome. Betty Buckley, if anybody's old enough to remember Age is Enough, she played Dick Van Patten's second wife after what's-her-name died. What was that woman's name? Anyway, it was awesome. The production was great. Betty Buckley, she's 71 years old, and she was tap dancing. I'm like, God, I'm so sad. It was like, she was tap dancing, doing a top shoot. I didn't even know she sang. But the whole production was amazing. The show was great. The only time I've ever seen Hello, Dolly was when, the musical back in whenever, the 70s, which was basically the last time studio was one of the last studio
That's awesome.
musicals.
So you had a good time then.
Oh, it was great. I mean, other than
that's really cool.
But just watching, I mean, I love going to the theater, and that's one of the cool things about having, being a season ticket holder. I mean, you get so many different shows. I think our next show is it Fiddler on the Roof? I think it's Fiddler on the Roof.
Nice.
Oh, what a show! Well, okay, brushes with greatness, because that's the kind of community we got here. I'm glad you offered up the review, Tracy, because I had a note from our buddy Joy in Ann Arbor, who said, "Looking forward to hearing the Hello, Dolly review. Betty Buckley is my husband's aunt, or was. She divorced his uncle, but they remain good friends, and we still call her Aunt Betty. I adore her. She went to my high school and university. I could listen to her sing all day long. Nice to see her pride from her beloved ranch in Texas to do Dolly."
Yeah.
Awesome.
So how freaking cool is that? This community never ceases to amaze me.
Tracy, is this a monthly thing, or how often do you go
okay. So basically,
enjoy this?
We see on the season. I mean, the season starts in October. Like the 2018-2019 season started in October. So the season goes from October to basically September. And typically, we're seeing a show sometimes once a month, sometimes twice a month,
nice.
depending on how the show.
Man, that
fall.
kicks ass. Yeah.
So like the
Oh,
next,
for one flat rate, that is awesome,
Yeah,
man.
and see, it was 2 years ago that I was considering not renewing, but that's when they brought Hamilton here. And basically, for what I paid for my subscription for our 2 seats, and in addition to Hamilton, it was like 6 other shows. For what I paid for basically paid for the Hamilton tickets, because you couldn't once they announced it, you could not get a ticket to Hamilton.
No.
Because I was a season ticket holder, and plus I still had my regular seats, and our seats, considering where they are pretty darn good. Plus,
But they start at like $200 a person, don't they? Or
well, for Hamilton, it started at like $500.
Wow.
I mean, my Jan's boss, when he found out that we had season tickets, offered to buy our tickets for $1,000 each.
Wow.
And Jan
Man,
considered it.
so you could have turned those and made some coin. Serious coin.
I told Jan, I'm like, no, because I bought these tickets, so no.
I'll keep the coin in my pocket. We're going to Hamilton.
I've got another.
Oh, hey, we are rapidly running out of time, but I need to extend some thanks.
That's awesome, man.
Steve, your challenge has been met by Greenlee, and so that means that we're gonna finish the program with $70 to go to finish this week's fundraising. So thanks a ton.
How much
Greenlee.
time you got left, Bob?
3 minutes, 2 minutes and change.
There's somebody out there in 3 minutes. They can bump that down a little farther.
Or the overnight crew, even.
Yes.
So we've got it. We've made up a lot of ground, and that makes bill paying a heck of a lot easier. So
that's awesome. That is
so
tremendous.
thank you Greenlee for finishing off Steve's challenge. That's 3 challenges in one night. That's amazing, and I can't thank y'all enough. So we got $70 to go to finish the week. So that's just awesome.
That's awesome. Well, anyway,
political conversation, humor, and a movie review and a show review. I mean,
and food porn.
Food porn.
And food porn.
And
where could you get that?
Is there time for more entertainment here?
And milk freshness. I mean, come on, man.
That's right.
This
is
is
what
what
definitely pointed out the fact that I'm culturally deprived out here in South Texas, baby.
Hey, guess where I'm headed to with Joe tonight? Joe from Ohio. He just came. He's coming into LAX at 10. He's a friend of the program, and Malloy and Bob's program. He's actually doing a dedication
he's
for
cool.
Malloy. We're gonna probably head to the Sunset Strip. I'm not sure if we're gonna go to the Roxy or the Rainbow or the Whiskey A Go Go or something like that. We're gonna check
Whiskey
it
A
out.
Go Go. Are you?
Yeah. He's never.
Oh man, that's where it all
I've
started.
heard of these places.
Yeah,
Doors played there, man.
Oh yeah. That was the Doors' favorite place to play. But it should be fun. He's actually doing a dedication on Malloy. He's buying an hour of Malloy and dedicating it to me and Susan, formerly from Washington, now from Georgia. Lighten it up for Mike. So
outstanding.
Yeah.
Awesome.
There was
awesome.
We did video dedications at the Malloyathon, and Susan kind of came in, and it was fun. Yeah, in the girls' bathroom too, which was sort of that's where the camera was set up, so Mike wouldn't see us doing it. As far as doing the dedication. So, but
on that line, I'm pleased to report that Tara's doing much better, and she should be back tomorrow night.
Yeah, wonderful.
Awesome.
She got flat knocked down by the flu.
Yeah, it kicked her ass. Yeah,
that's terrible. Well, I'm glad she's on the mend then.
Yeah, indeed. By the way, the milk question has been answered by Harold.
All right, good. We needed this.
Your milk has a longer shelf life because it is heated to a higher temp for a longer time. It is, in fact, hyper, ultra, super duper, double plus secret probation pasteurized.
So it's not like it's Franken-milk or anything. It's all good.
Oh yeah, and that stuff has a wonderful, wonderful flavor.
Oh, it's great. I was like, there's got to be a catch here. There's something that tastes this good with this long of a shelf life.
Oh, I want to make
There's
one other
something
thing.
they're not telling me.
I gotta remember. I want to make some homemade hot chocolate with it, with the whole Fairlife milk, because it's going to be rich and wonderful. Well, y'all, we got to get out of here.
Well, I got Bob.
Yeah.
In the waning moments of a quick rush with greatness that Tracy will appreciate. In the late 80s, early 90s, I was in a bar in Kansas City called the Grand Emporium, and who should I see sitting at the bar? I was at a table with some friends.
Girl Wives?
No. Forrest Whittaker. He was in town to do a movie called Article 99, which actually wasn't released until 92. And a very nice man. Hell of an actor, too.
Well, I once rode an elevator in the Sunset Strip, a medical building on the Sunset Strip with, don't you know, Roddy McDowell. And I got to tell him how much I appreciated his movies, his Planet of the Apes movies and what have you. So that was pretty cool, too. So it's easier here on the West Coast, isn't it, Scott?
I love to hear you guys' West Side stories, because out here on the East Side, it never happened.
Yeah.
But Bob, thanks for the show tonight, brother.
Thanks to all of y'all, and I'm so glad. These Friday conversations go all over the place, and they are they're absolutely wonderful. I get such a kick out of them, and thanks everybody for jumping in. And I think that looking forward to the next one, and looking forward to Monday already. But and thank you for coming in after you were done with transport duties, John. Thanks.
Love being on the show, Bob.
Oh, it is always a blast. It is absolutely always a blast. And thanks to everybody in the Extraordinary Ordinary Roundtable conversation. Thanks for your emails. And like I said, we'll be. Further brushes with greatness. Steve in New York says Martin Sheen bought me dinner. See, this is an amazing community.
That is impressive. That's very impressive. I think Steve takes the cake there with brushes of greatness there. That does it.
And if Steve says it, you can take it to the bank, man.
Yeah.
No shit.
So y'all have a wonderful weekend. Thanks to our all-volunteer staff. Thanks to Sparky and Steve. Thanks to our news ninjas. Thank you to Brother Deacon Asa, headon.live. Thank you, John Fox in Australia. Thank you, Ben Birch, whiterosesociety.org. Thank you to the hardest-working, bravest people I know, the men and women of Coal River Mountain Watch. Thanks to all of you who share your precious finite time engaging in this little ongoing conversation. Thanks to all of you who keep the program on the air for, a lot of years. Thank you so very much. And always, 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 Gina, it's all for you. Have a great weekend, everybody. Later.